Hello, Internet. This is Normalman, and I'm about to thoroughly embarrass myself with an audio version of Christian Humber Reloaded. The beginning.
They say the times of your life is your childhood. Yay, right. It's more like a living hell if you ask me. My family was killed by hunters when I was at least 2 months old. My brother and I were spared for some damn reason. I was pretty much raised in a laboratory somewhere. We hated it in there because we had experiments conducted on us. When they killed my brother, that triggered my transformation, and in my rage, I killed all the scientists in the lab and destroyed it when I was 6 years old. So after that, I was forced to flee into the woods. I had a tough time trying to join a pack, but they didn't let me because they thought I would be a threat. Boy, they were right when some hunters came and killed most of the pack. In anger, I transformed and killed all but one hunter. He ran, but I caught up, ripped his fucking throat out in a bloody mess. More hunters came, I did the same thing, but one escaped, and I earned my reputation of hunter-killer at 10. I was ambushed and critically hurt, like I could barely even stand. I walked into a village and collapsed on some random person's doorstep. I finally passed out from all the pain. I was lucky to have lived. When I finally came around, I was in front of a nice fire, and I was bandaged up. I had food lying in front of me. Since I hadn't had anything to eat for 2 months, I ate all of it.
The birth of a Super Saiyan werewolf.
The people who found me were a little girl and her father, who were very kind to have helped me. The little girl gave me a name that was Fluffy, which I hated, so her father gave me a better name that was Vash. I liked it, because who the hell would name a wolf Fluffy? When I fully healed, I went out with her father to go hunting. Guess what happened? I stepped in a bear trap. Then the trap's jaws snapped on my leg, but the jaw's iron teeth shattered when they hit my leg. The girl's father got scared when that happened. I used the scent on the trap to track the son of a bitch who said it, and I did. Showing no remorse, killed the bitch. While I was asleep, the village was attacked. I woke up and saw both the little girl and her father get killed. That caused me to speak my first words. No! Whoever did this will pay dearly! Because I loved them? I finally had enough rage to cause me to transform into a Super Saiyan. I was very pissed off and lost all control of my body, and I killed all the raiders and ate their guts. After that, I left the ruined village, after I buried the little girls and her father's bodies. The true meaning of fighting. I was caught in a cage and was loaded onto a truck, which had no suspension whatsoever. When the truck went over rocks and logs, the people who captured me put a tarp over the cage to make sure I wouldn't find my way back to the forest. When the truck stopped, the cage that held me was put into an arena, and I found out I would have to fight in order to survive. My first opponent was a German shepherd, who almost killed me, except when I used the arena's walls to my advantage, and I won. Barely. I was forced to fight for this guy, who treated me with such cruelty that I wanted to kill him so bad. So I played along with him until he made a fatal mistake. I used him in order to realize my fighting potential, and when he opened the cage to pet me, I grabbed his hand and dragged him in and brutally killed him. I had to run in order to live. One of his guys saw me and ran after me until I broke through a window and jumped.
My human form achieved.
I blacked out when I was in the water for some time. I was found when I washed up on shore by some strange creatures collecting shells on the beach. When I regained my senses, I was in a hut. I tried getting up, but I couldn't, because I was battered around in the ocean for 3 weeks. I tried again, and I moved about 3 feet before collapsing again. The creature who found me bandaged up all my wounds with leaves from a plant. I woke up to find it watching me. I tried to ask, "Where am I, and who the fuck are you?" It spoke in a language I've never heard before, but I could understand it. It said, "You're on the island of Matanui, and I'm a Mandarin called Takua. What's your name?" I said, "I have no name. but I go by Vash. He said,
That's a good name, but I've never seen your kind before, so you're the first of your kind to ever land on this island.
I said, I need to understand myself and my anger, but I don't know how to. He thought for a moment and said,
I know who can help you, but I'm not sure what she'll do or say.
I said, don't worry about it. I think I can make her understand. Somehow. He believed me and took me to her. He bowed in front of her and said,
Toa Gali, this creature wants you to help him understand himself.
She said,
It is certainly strange, but I'll try to help him as best I can.
After I did go through a lot of mental training, when I finished that, she wanted to see what I learned in the mental training, and I finally found my human form.
My true power unleashed.
She sent me to go train with the other Toa to understand my powers. Every time I finished training with the Toa, I would learn something new about myself and the Toa who trained me. One of the hardest training to do was to race the Toa of stone, with a boulder tied to my back and heavy stones tied to my arms and legs. As I got stronger, the weight increased. Soon, as he took the rocks off me, I raced him and almost won. The last Toa to train with me was the Toa of Earth. Every day he would take me into a mine and have me try to punch through solid rock. While I was training with him, a Rahi attacked us, and with my battered hands and feet, I kicked the Rahi through solid rock. He tied the heavy... After the weight became so light, I finished all my training. After I emerged from the mine, all the Toa were standing in front of me. Takua was there too and said,
Show us what you learned during your training.
I did. This time I went Super Saiyan on command, and all my wounds healed very quickly. While I was training, I learned how to use a sword.
Chaos.
After I left Mata Nui, a portal appeared out of nowhere and shadows snatched me and pulled me in. I blacked out. When I woke up, I was holding a sword that I've never seen before. Before I could drop it, it stuck its tentacles into my wrist and caused me to lose control of my body. I was forced to fight against a lot of innocent people and creatures. The thing that had me, I heard it is called chaos.
Escape from chaos.
I used my willpower to fight against it, and I succeeded. After that, I fled, which was actually harder than the hardest mineral I've punched through. When I escaped, I had to go into hiding. I was still connected to it, but I found out how to purify my soul by showing kindness, which was hard because the darkness in my heart wanted to kill everyone. I've soaked in purifying springs and attended church. That got rid of the tainted power in me. I finally escaped chaos.
Meeting Spin.
I had no money, so I had to become a bounty hunter in order to get money for food and water. Some of the people wanted me to kill world leaders, like the one who started the Holocaust. That's right, I had to assassinate Hitler. And I got a huge bounty for doing it. After I got the money, I killed the person who hired me. I had enough money to get a weapon. I got a sword, because I know how to use it. Another portal opened, and I fell in and landed in a different world. I landed and began exploring. I fell into a trap that disables your powers. I began to swear a lot in frustration. I stopped when a tall hedgehog was staring at me and asked,
How'd you get in that trap?
I told him what happened to me, by keeping my sword ready for any sign of danger. He got me out of the trap. I was about to thank him when a robot appeared, and I slashed the robot in half with my sword. He asked me,
What's your name?
I told him, Vash. He laughed, and I asked, What's so funny about my name? He said,
Vash isn't a name for you.
Then he said,
How about you go by the name of Blade?
I said, Blade? He said,
Yeah, because you're the only wolf I know who can weld a sword like a pro.
I asked him, I haven't heard your name yet, so what is it? He said,
The name's Spin. Spin the Hedgehog.
I said, Glad to meet you.
The war against the Eggman Empire.
Later I heard from Spin that I was on Mobius, and there's a terrible war going on. The one who started the war was a guy called Dr. Robotnik, or called Dr. Eggman. After I heard about that, I wanted to kill Eggman, but I didn't show it. I met up with a group called the Freedom Fighters and presented myself to them, and they said,
"You can't be a freedom fighter unless you can fight."
That irritated me, but I accepted it, until I had to jump in to help them fight against the waves of enemy robots. They asked,
"What are you doing here? You're going to get yourself killed."
I said, "Just watch me." And with that, I transformed into a Super Saiyan, and with one blast of energy, I destroyed the enemy attack force with no effort at all. They were surprised when I did that.
The battle against the Vizorak Horde.
After I became a freedom fighter, I got transported to a strange city covered with strange webs. I made sure I wouldn't fall into another trap by keeping my eyes and ears open for any sign of danger. Well, I did get into some danger by being spotted by a strange spider-like creature. Boy, that was a big mistake. The next thing I know, I'm dodging their projectiles. I pulled my sword out, and with my speed, I ran up a wall in a building and swung. When my sword hit one of the bitches, my sword broke in half, and in my head, I said, "Oh shit, I pissed it off. This time I'm screwed." The thing I hit with my sword turned and launched its projectile at me. I closed my eyes expecting impact, felt no pain. I opened my eyes, and something was standing in front of me in the way, and deflected the shot right back at the thing that shot at me. I said, "Thanks for getting me out of that mess. But what the hell are you?" It said nothing. I asked again, this time louder, and it finally spoke.
"You were lucky, but next time, be more careful."
I asked, "What are you?" It said,
"I'm a Toa Hortkaita, half hero, half beast."
I asked, "What were those that attacked me?" It said,
"Those are Vizorak. They're responsible for my appearance."
I asked it what its name was, and it told me its name is Matau.
Taruga Matau? Last time I saw you, you were as tall as a Mandarin. Now you're taller than me. What gives?
He said,
"Me, Taruga? No, not never."
I realized I went way back in time to the destroyed Metra Nui. I said, "I need a new sword in order to help you." He said, "If a forge is still intact, Vakama will try to make you one." I met the others, and I told them who I am and how I got here. They listened, and showed Vakama my broken sword. He examined it and made a mold for the sword. His forge was mostly intact. I found out he has some great Konoka discs hidden in his forge, and I helped him make it. It took us a while, and we finished it, but the Toa couldn't come up with a name for it. I came up with the name Tetsume. They liked it. But I had to make a thing that only I could use. I grabbed it and heated the blade up and cut my finger on it and put a drop of blood on it to symbolize only I could use it.
Tetsume's first test.
I found the perfect way to lure one to me. I set a trap for one by plucking a thread of silk, drawing at least 5 to me. I pulled Tetsume out and struck it. It worked. I killed one of them again. They shot at me, but I went Super Saiyan and cut each one of them in half. I said to Tetsume, "Congratulations, Tetsume. You passed the test." I turned to the Toa and said, "Now that I'm ready, let's go open a can of whoop-ass." They didn't know what I meant, so I told them, "It means to go beat the living shit out of the Visa."
The final battle against the Horde.
The Toa showed me where the main entrance nest was. I saw a lot of guards patrolling the entrance to the nest, and I told the Toa, "I'll act as a decoy while you guys infiltrate the nest." They agreed to my plan, and we carried it out. I actually had fun being the decoy. I insulted them by calling them ugly. After I lost them, I found the Toa and looked for anything that would really piss them off, and I saw the Mandarin capsules. I told the Toa this, "I'm about to do something very stupid, so don't try this at home." I jumped from my hiding place and landed on their web, attracting all their attention to me. I was right about how to piss them off. I had a lot of fun dodging their attacks. And when I got hit by the red one's projectile, it felt like I was burning up, but that didn't stop me from going psycho, and I did. I killed most of them when I saw the Toa in danger. I jumped up there and kicked the Vizorak off the web, and while it was falling, I blasted it. I went with the Toa to find their leader, who was a big, ugly son of a bitch. The Toa told me not to fight along their side. I was about to protest when they told me it's their fight. and I said, "If you need some help, just call me." The Toa fought pretty well, except when some Vizorak entered the fight, so I entered the fight just to kill off the Vizorak. After that, I saw the Toa getting beaten, so I went against what Vakama told me, and entered the fight just to hold them off long enough for the Toa to combine their attacks into one. But the blast didn't even scratch him. I told the Toa, "Try it again!" And they did, but this time I also used my power to help the blast. This time it almost killed him, so I used Tetsume and killed him.
The birth of Takanuva, the Toa of Light.
I got a call from Tahunuva. When I returned to Matanui, I went to Takoro to see what I was called for. I found out that Takua is the chronicler, and that he found a strange mask. The mask I found out is the Great Mask of Light, and I went with Takua and Jalar to find the 7th Toa. I saw one of the ugliest creatures I've never seen before, called Rakshi. One of them is the reason I'm insane. The one that did that to me was the White Rakshi. I defeated it with ease. I was almost killed by them in the Kini in the center of Matanui, when the golden light shone and disabled them. When I looked up, I saw a golden Toa, but when I looked deeper, I saw a Matarin. I saw it was Takua. He said, "I am Takanuva, the Toa of Light." I met a very funny Matarin named Tamu. He taught me a good insult, and I still use it.
The Magon is discovered.
While I was trying to find some light stones, I found something extremely cool. But when I touched it, it reacted and fused to my arm, and 3 bullets appeared. I took them and showed them to Turunga no Kama. She said,
"This thing you found is very unique, but we have never seen it before."
Then Sidorak appeared, and the thing on my arm reacted, and something came over me that caused me to say, "Soil is my power," and it transformed into a gun, and I said, "The mag gun has thawed." Then I also said, "The soil charge to be used against you has been decided. The thing that mows everything down, storm blue. The thing that erases all color, ash gray. And finally the thing that drops you into eternal darkness, silent black." It started pulsating. "Destroy! I summon you, Atamos!" I fired it, and the shots went into the clouds, and a huge eye appeared and slowly began to suck everything up. I realized I summoned Atamos, the living black hole. I yelled, "Get underground, now!" And the Toa did. Because I summoned Atamos, most of the trees were ripped out. I apologized for what happened. I later found out I used the legendary Magun. I went back to where it was and found a strange belt with the same kind of bullets in it, and a shotgun. Inscribed on its handle was carved, "Blade, take my weapons and I will help you in the battle against your old enemy, Kaze." I asked myself, how did he know about me? And about chaos? Then I heard a voice in my head say,
"I know you from the things you've done, for I am your guardian."
I said, "My guardian?"
"Yes, that's right, your guardian."
I said, "Cool. Hold on, who made you my guardian?" He said,
"Your father chose me to protect you from the darkness, but I couldn't protect you from the warp. I died fighting your corrupted self."
I said nothing. Then he said,
"I lodged 3 purifying bullets in your chest."
"The fight against Chaos Blade." I asked Kaze what I was like in my corrupted form. He told me, "Really ugly and very violent." I was going to ask Kaze what the gun on the belt was called, but before he could answer, a portal opened and a figure stepped out, and he told me who the guy was. I pulled Tetsume out, and he pulled out a sword I recognized as the same sword that caused me to lose control of my body. The Slayer of Souls. I said in my threatening voice, "So, we meet at last, ugly," putting it lightly. Kaze was right about how ugly he was. I said, "Your move, ugly." And with that comment, he rushed head-on in rage. Boy, he made the worst mistake by striking head-on. I used my speed to get behind him, but he moved and got behind me. So I whipped Kaze's shotgun out and pointed point blank at his head, and fired, but missed. He struck and cut my arm off holding Tetsume. He really regretted that by having me use the Magun as a Super Saiyan. I used Odin that time, killing my corrupted self.
The ultimate weapon discovered.
I had my arm replaced by a robotic arm, and I got the hang of using it. I had an encounter with a gang, and I scared them off by punching through a wall without even trying. The second time, I crushed a member's skull with one hand. And for the final encounter with the gang, I tortured all of them by skinning them alive and hung them on a wall still alive. Every gang that came across me ended up skinned or decapitated. As I was finishing off a gang, a portal opened and threw something out of it and hit me straight in the forehead. It hurt a little bit. When I looked at what hit me in the forehead, I found a strange jewel. I identified it as the Shikon jewel, but white as snow. That confused me, because the Shikon jewel is pink. But white? That makes no fucking sense at all. I decided to keep it and understand why it is white. The mag gun reacted to it, and the white Shikon jewel did the same. When a demon that I recognized as my brother appeared, I was a bit confused, but when he attacked me I realized he was corrupted by chaos, a foul demon who took my brother's body. That is when the mag gun and the white Shikon jewel became one, and I fired it without the soil charges. It destroyed his body, and the demon, but the jewel was gray when it got spit out of the mag gun.
Tetsume breaks.
My corrupted self appeared again. I fought him, and when he struck the Slayer of Souls, it broke Tetsume in half, which caused me to transform into a killing machine. The only thing that stopped me was a little girl and her father. She told me, "Don't kill anymore, because I love you." That caused me to regain my senses. I said, "I like you too, Soku." After that, I had Tetsume repaired by using one of my fangs, and everyone I walked by would run and hide as if I was still on a killing spree. I told everyone, "You don't have to be afraid of me anymore, because I learned that when my sword is taken from me or broken, I become that ruthless beast." After I said that, a robbery happened. I regretted dropping Tetsume and transforming, but I did show the burglars this. "When you see me drop my sword, run as fast as you can, because if I catch you, you're fucked." I tried to understand my ruthless side, but I couldn't. I went to Japan to find someone who could help me, but I was not welcomed. So I welcomed myself by beating the living crap out of the Emperor, which was fun, especially when he tries to fight back. That taught Japan not to keep me out, because I would again beat the shit out of the ruler.
Betrayed by Soku.
I was buying some food for dinner when I was attacked by the police. I knew they couldn't find me. I asked myself, who the hell told them I was here, living in peace, and why? I returned to Soku's house and asked, who told the cops I was here? Soku said, "I did. I had to because I was offered a large bounty for your head. I'm sorry for betraying you. I couldn't pass up the reward." I wanted to kill her, but I made a promise not to kill anymore, so I couldn't.
Revenge against Soku's family.
I let the police take me, but I told her in a deep, threatening voice, "You will regret betraying me." She didn't know I was going to wipe out her entire gene pool. I met her friends before I was betrayed, so I broke out of prison, killed her friends first just to scare her, but she didn't know it was me who killed her friends, until I told her. After telling her, I tore out her throat, and then I destroyed the village, killing the rest of her family. I also killed her relatives and her family. By doing that, I broke my promise to her.
Regret.
I fled from the police for years. The only place I could go was Matanui, and I went there just to be alone until I could return to the human world. 16 years later, I returned to California and decided to give the police a message, which was, I'm back. By breaking down the front door and walking in wearing all black and a hockey mask on, which scared all of them to death, until I said, I'm back. One of them said, who are you? I said, I'm the one who destroyed that village 16 years ago, and hug me. They had a confused look on their faces like, what the fuck? I just held my hands out and said, just arrest me. And they did. I was in jail for at least 5 years. Then a jailbreak happened, and I was given the job to either kill or arrest the convicts. I enjoyed hunting the convicts, epically when they had no idea what's going to happen to them until it's too late. I brought back some of them alive, but most of them I ended up killing.
My first fun job.
I was given the job of convict and terrorist hunting because I enjoyed hunting them and infiltrating their stronghold, then go on my killing spree, blood and guts everywhere I fed upon the guts, or at least breaking down a building after rescuing the hostages. No matter what the odds were, 1 against 1,000, which I always liked, I always ended up getting the job done, and ended up not damaging important buildings. The only time I ever had to bring a building down was when the terrorists were threatening to use a nuke, which I defused, and then brought it down by sending a shockwave through the support beams.
Darkness never dies, no matter how many times you kill it.
While I was waiting for a job, guess what? I got arrested again because of my corrupted side. I told the court this: I didn't kill all those civilians. I was here waiting for my next mission. They didn't believe me until I caught the one who was killing the civilians. Guess who I found? My corrupted self. I pulled Tetsumi out and fought him. This time, I slashed him in half and then used the mag gun. I killed him for the 3rd time. The Slayer of Souls was still in the world I'm in, so I decided to seal it for all eternity. I did seal it and threw it into the ocean. This way it can't be used by anyone, including myself.
Soku's revenge against me.
10 years later, I was playing with some children when a familiar scent appeared. I knew it was Soku because I recognized her scent. She probably wanted revenge on me for killing her family. I regretted killing her in front of them. They started to cry. I told them, I had to, because I couldn't risk having you get killed. That's why I killed her. And if I let her live, she would tell the people who were after me that I have a thing for children. They were still a little scared of me, but I told them, it's alright for you to be scared of me because I, killed a lot of people in the past. But I changed. They stared at me, then tackled me. When they did that, they were laughing. I laughed too because I was happy.
The call.
One night while I was sleeping, I was awakened by a strange call that sounded like, help me, anyone and anybody, help me. I was confused by the call because it wasn't from the children, so I thought, who's calling me and why? I ignored the call most of the time. I was in school, until I was done with school for the rest of my life. When I was walking home for summer, I saw a strange creature.
The end of part 1.
And now, part 2 of Christian Humber Reloaded.
The Encounter.
When I was coming home from school for the summer, I saw a strange creature. I said, what the hell are you? It said,
help me. I'm hurt badly and I need medical attention now.
So I helped it and repeated, what the heck are you? It said,
a dragon with the power to control the seasons.
I almost said the F word, but I stopped myself.
I need a place to live in,
said the dragon.
A big place.
The dragon is extremely large, so I asked, can't you fly? And the dragon responded,
yes, I can, but my wings are damaged badly, so I can't.
When I saw his wings, they were trash, and I wrapped his wings with as many bandages as I could get. After I finished wrapping his wings, his stomach growled. I guessed he was hungry, and I had to steal about 5,000 pounds of food, which was tough to get, but I got it. Now that the dragon is full, I hacked a satellite and found a cave in the Rocky Mountains. I took a plane to Colorado and took a car to the location. Of course, I had a laptop with a wireless card and a digital camera. I sent pictures of the cave. Then I measured it, took notes, then went home and measured the dragon. He is 60,000 feet long and 9,000 feet wide. The cave is 200,000 feet high and 20,000 feet wide. He was delighted to have a home. As a reward, he taught me the instant transmission. I, of course, went with him to the cave. Somehow someone followed me and saw the dragon. I detected the spy and deleted what the spy saw and transported her home. The dragon is safe for now, but I hope no one finds him, because the world will probably put him in a cage, which I will have to break him out of and find a new home for him. Or I could just cloak the cave from radar, sonar, and satellite.
Now a day.
I now visit my dragon often by using the instant transmission technique he taught me. He's certainly getting bigger than last time I measured him. He was 60,000 feet long and 9,000 feet wide. But now he is at least 120,000 feet long and 18,000 feet wide. I'm guessing he had too much to eat because of his moaning. After I gave him an anti-acid reflex tablet, then he was fine. Then I weighed him and said, "Holy shit!" Because he weighs 900 quadrillion tons. That amazing weight made me say the S word. He is the heaviest creature on the planet since the dinosaurs walked the planet. I checked the chamber where he puts the bones of his meal, and again I said, "Holy shit!" Because the chamber was full of bones. Some were still wet with blood. Then I checked the entrance to his home. The entrance was a tight fit for him when he goes to hunt or swim. I watched him walk around, and each step he takes, it's like thunder, and his belly makes a sloshing sound like he was full of water, and his belly is also very soft, and I guessed he was getting overweight. I presume his wings fully healed, and I took him to fly around, which he did with some trouble.
The race against time.
I told him to exercise, but he told me that it was the food, then he clutched his enormous belly like he was in massive pain. I tried to see what was wrong with him, but he told me it was nothing. When I came back the next day, I brought a sonic probe and hooked it up to my laptop and scanned his belly, and to my surprise, I said, "Shit, you're pregnant with about 6,000 eggs." He said,
"So that's what was hurting me so bad."
I asked him how he became pregnant, and he said,
"I don't know how I got this large fucking thing, but I hate it."
I was shocked to actually hear him say the F word for the first time. Then he cried out in pain, and I saw why, because his belly grew about 60 feet bigger, and I checked again, and there were 3,000 more eggs. I knew if he had any more eggs, he would die, because of the pressure of the eggs would crush his internal organs. I had to do something fast in order to save him. I used my instant transmission technique and got a surgical team and their equipment for an operation. At first they didn't believe me until I showed them the eggs which were killing him. I told them he is very important to the planet, because if he dies, the planet will be thrown into complete chaos. So they started the surgery. But he didn't want to get knocked out, but I told him not to worry, they are here to help you. But he didn't believe that. Then he had the same sharp pain, and his belly grew out another 60 feet, and he saw it, and finally agreed to allow them to knock him out, but the light was extremely poor. So I took them and my dragon to a hospital to do the operation, and I waited in the waiting room pacing around and looking at the clock. After about 19 hours of waiting, the nurse told me he will be fine. I was so glad. And then I asked how long he will be in the recovery room, and she said, "About 3 years. And I said in surprise, 3 years? Shit! I can't wait that long. By then he will be discovered and put into a cage, and I won't let them do that to him." Then another nurse came and said, "It fully healed in just an hour." Then I said quietly so no one can hear me, "Good boy." To my surprise, he was walking around, probably getting rid of the knockout gas when he spotted me and said,
"Let's get the fuck out of here."
I sighed and said, "Let's go home." Then a ringmaster saw me and my dragon and pulled out a shotgun and pointed it at me and said, "Hand over the dragon or I'll shoot!" And I said, "Kiss my ass, you fucking asshole!" The ringmaster was surprised that I said the F word and called him an asshole. And then the ringmaster pulled the trigger, but the shot hit the wall because I was too fast for a bullet. And I got behind him and pulled out my shotgun and pointed at his head at point-blank range and said, "Leave my dragon alone, okay?" The ringmaster said, "Never!" I sighed again and said, "So be it," and pulled the trigger. The ringmaster's head was vaporized, and I put my shotgun away and used instant transmission to teleport out of there, and my dragon was safe again. And I had to tell the police I had a reason to kill the ringmaster. Then the police told me they were after the ringmaster for 19 years, and they told me he had an illegal circus which had mythical creatures who were treated with cruelty.
The effort to purify the rogue dragons.
I got a reward of $60 million billion. I was amazed that I became a hero, and the news crew was there too. But out of the corner of my eye, I saw some orphans watching through the window, and I walked over to them. They were scared, until I gave them about $1,000 and told them, "Go find a home where you will be never harmed again, because I'll be there to protect you." They did. The parents there were alcoholics and were treating them cruelly, so I went with them and found all the alcohol and destroyed it and arrested the drunk bastards and took the orphans to see my dragon. They were scared at first, but then played with him until the orphans were exhausted and I found a shelter for them. Then my dragon needed some calcium. Right when I was going to throw away all those bones, went back for another handful, the bones were gone. I found him patting his enormous belly, and I didn't know he ate all the bones. When I told him to move aside when I heard the rattle of bones in his belly, and I said, "You just ate the bones, didn't you?" And he said,
No, I didn't.
he was lying to me. So I said, "Nice try, but you have to try harder than that to make me believe you." He said,
Damn it.
I said very calmly, "The bones you ate will give you calcium." He's now forging 3 swords, which will allow me to weaken dragon clans. But when I fuse the 3 swords to allow me to capture dragon clans. The 3 swords' names are Unity, Duty, and Destiny. But when I fuse the 3 swords, I get the Virtue Sword, which allows me to capture dragon clans. He also made a device that will capture rogue dragons and bring them to the good side. Some of the rogue dragons are enormous, and some are extremely fat and hungry. I then asked the rogue dragons why they rebelled against the humans, and they said,
Humans have used and abused us, so we ate them, and we will destroy humanity and rule the planet.
I asked, "Who did that to you?" And they said,
A gang did this to us, but now we will eat everyone on the planet, and no one can stop us.
I said, "Oh, really?" Then I pulled out the Virtue Sword and struck a rogue dragon with lightning-fast swipes of the sword, and to them it looked like I didn't move, until one of the rogue dragons collapsed onto the floor.
My sin.
My dragon saw me move that fast, and he could see me strike with falcon accuracy, and the other rogue dragons were not afraid until I struck down one of their comrades. Then they lost their nerve and they surrendered. I told them, "Don't do that again, or I will not hesitate to kill you, all right?" And they said in a squeak, "Yes." I then said, "Where is this gang that made you rebel?" And they said,
We don't know.
I pulled out my sword again, and they said,
In Chicago.
Then I said, "Where in Chicago is the gang?" They said nothing, and I repeated, "Where in Chicago is the gang?" Again they said nothing, and I picked one up and slammed him into a wall and said, "Answer me! Answer me, damn you!" The one I had pinned up against the wall ate me. Then I did something I would completely regret. I transformed into a Super Saiyan and burst out of the dragon's belly covered in blood. And then when I looked back to look at the dragon, his belly was wide open. I felt awful about what I did. I told my dragon, "I want to be alone for some time, okay?" My dragon understood perfectly that I needed to be alone for a while.
The purifying of my heart.
I went to China and told a wise priest what I did. He told me in order to purify my heart, I would have to go to hell and kill a dragon named Li Hongdui, who was cursing China for 5,000 years. I asked where the gate to hell was, and he told me,
I don't know, but use your spirit to find a gate to the underworld.
I thanked him, and I did use my spirit, and I found it. But before I entered, a servant stopped me and said,
"The priest wants me to give this to you for slaying the demon."
It was a sword called the Xing Shingo, which was used to slay the demon before. I found out the sword was supposed to put the demon to sleep for 1,000 years. I said, "This won't help me at all." So I pulled the Virtue Sword out and used my speed and accuracy to try and kill the bastard. But it didn't leave a scratch. "Oh, shit!" I said. I then remembered the servant told me the Xing Shingo is the only sword which could pierce the demon's tough scales. I muttered, "Let's try this." Then I used the sword fusion on the Virtue Sword and the Shing Shingo. I got the legendary Demon Killer, and with one slash I killed the demon. I was covered in blood, but when I emerged from the underworld, all of China was there waiting for me. When I finally emerged, all of China cheered, and the priest said,
"You have stopped the curse. You are a hero in the next 1,000 years.
I said, I'd hate to burst your bubble, but I killed it. And the priest said,
You did what?
I killed it. The priest said,
You started a yin-yang war, and you will fight alone, with no weapons.
When the priest took the sword I was holding, but right when he touched it, it electrocuted him. I was surprised that the Shing Shingo became part of the Virtue Sword. After I used my new powerful sword against 100 demons, I killed them all with one swipe. I then decided to call it Tetsaiga, because it can kill 100 demons with one swipe. I returned home after 1 year passed. My dragon was happy that I returned home after a long time. I told him the whole story, and he said,
I'll help out in this war.
I said, no thanks, I have a very powerful sword, Tetsaiga, which can kill 100 demons in one swipe. He didn't believe me, but when I was going to show him, I got calls from all over the world, except China. I smiled my psycho smile, and my dragon knew I was going to go to war. I started to leave the cave when my dragon blocked my path. I said, what the hell are you doing? I need to save the world. And my dragon said,
You are not going out there alone.
And I said, all right, you can help, but if it gets sticky, get the fuck out of there. And he said,
Cool, I'll get the reinforcements.
Right before I could speak, a demon called Keikanu called me and said, in 10 days, come to the city at dusk, so the war can begin. I said, there are too many people around. Let's fight at the wastelands, okay? Keikanu agreed with me. So I told my family I was to fight in a war that will decide the fate of the planet that will start in 10 days at dusk. My parents begged me not to go, but I told them I have to go, because I started the war, and I will be the one to end the war. I trained in a chamber called the Hyperbolic Time Chamber with the Tetsaiga to try and learn some techniques before I go to war. In the Hyperbolic Time Chamber, a day is a year. I stay in the Hyperbolic Time Chamber for the 10 days, which means I train for 10 years in there.
The yin-yang war begins.
On the final day, I emerged stronger than before. Also, I obtained all the Super Saiyan stages. Of course, when I emerged, I was in Super Saiyan form. My dragon could sense my power level. He was scared out of his mind. He told me,
Get back, or I'll kill you.
I said in slang, You would hurt Sing Song, brother? He could not believe his ears and said,
Blade, is that you?
I said, Of course, dummy. Who else would have called you a sing-song brother? He said nothing, and I said, Let's go open a can of wop ass. My dragon agreed. Now it is the time to fight. We went to the wastelands, and there stood Keikanu. He said, Good, you have come to fight. Well, aren't we going to start? I said, Yeah, let's go. Before I knew it, he had an entire army of demons behind him. I said to myself, it's time to use my new skills. I pulled Tetsaiga from its scabbard and focused my power into the blade, and I swiped. He laughed and said, Is that the best you can do? In a mocking voice. I said, No, this is what I can do to you, ugly son of a bitch. Then waves of energy shot out of the blade, killing half of the army. Keikanu got scared out of his wits. I told him, Surrender, or I will kill the rest of your fucking army. Keikanu sent the rest of his army at me, but right when I was ready to strike, he cast a paralyzing spell on me. I yelled, You fucking piece of shit! I'll kill you for this! And he just laughed. Then, just out of the blue, smacked him and sent him flying into the cliff. I said, What the? And when I looked where Keikanu stood, I saw a dragon standing in his place. I sensed that power before. I yelled, Season Bringer, what happened to you? You look stronger. Season Bringer said, Of course I look stronger, because I did some training.
I asked, "Where did you train?" He said,
The other world.
I screamed, "You went to the other world without me knowing?" Seasonbringer said,
Chill down, Blade. We have a mission, don't we?
I said coolly, "Yay, we do. But I want you to get everyone on the planet to lend me their energy, okay?" Seasonbringer said,
All right, I will. Keikanu's defeat.
When Keikanu recovered from the surprise attack, I told Seasonbringer to go, and he did. I turned with rage to Keikanu and said in a deep, scary voice, "Let's finish this." Before he could strike with his claws, I powered up to Super Saiyan Stage 4. Keikanu transformed to his demon form, and we were evenly matched in power when we started fighting. The blows could be felt across the planet. Seasonbringer could sense the fight going on. Seasonbringer completed his mission. He told me he completed his mission. I delivered a devastating blow to the face, stunning him for a few seconds. Then I called for the energy the planet gave me, the energy to go to the ultimate Super Saiyan stage, Stage 5. I then focused my energy that I would destroy Keikanu and his army, and that would end the war with just one blow. I did the wind scar technique, and destroyed Keikanu and his army. I wasted a lot of energy performing the wind-scarred Super Saiyan Stage 5. I lay exhausted. I was lucky to have Seasonbringer to bring me home. I slept for 3 weeks. Then when I finally woke up, there was a victory party waiting for me. I was surprised that Seasonbringer had planned the party for me, and I said, "You planned the party for me, didn't you?" He said, "Yes." And I said, "Come here," in a playful voice, giving him a nudge. Then pain shot up my whole body, and I screamed out in pain. I had to be taken to the hospital, because I broke every bone and pulled all the tendons in my body during the fight. I had to spend a year in the hospital in order to recover fully. While in the hospital, I snuck out once in a while to go train, but then I would get caught and be strapped into the bed. When I fully recovered, I had Seasonbringer brought me to the other world, and we both trained there for a year. Then we decided to become one of Earth's great guardians, but we couldn't because the guardians saw what we did, but they did let us become holy warriors. We were allowed to protect the planet from demons, aliens, space pirates, and mainly, idiots. We got to train for as long as we want.
The warning.
Sometimes if I were in a good mood, which I wasn't in at all, we would let some aliens through like the Protoss to make peace. If not, well, you get the idea. An enemy alien race called the Zerg almost got through, but Seasonbringer and I destroyed their attack force and sent them home with their fucking tails between their legs. I then got a transmission from a different planet. I studied a map and traced it to the planet Char, the Zerg home world. I said, "God damn it, who the hell would send me a fucking transmission at this time?" When I answered it, a woman stood there. She said in a bug-like voice, "Hello, Blade." I said in a low, angered voice, "Kerrigan." Kerrigan said, "I bring bad news." I said, "Can't you see I'm busy right now, so leave me alone?" But right when I was going to cut the transmission, Seasonbringer stopped me and said,
Let's hear what she has to say.
I yelled in anger, "Do you know who she is? She's the Queen of Blades, and she almost made me her fucking slave!" Seasonbringer said,
Chill, Blade. Kerrigan, continue.
I couldn't believe Seasonbringer would talk to that bitch. Kerrigan continued, "There's a new overmind growing on Char." I yelled, "What? You can't be serious! The overmind was killed by the Dark Templar!" She said, "Go to Char and kill it." I said, "How can I kill the fucking thing when I don't have any Dark Templar powers?" She said, "You do, but you don't know how to use them yet. Go to Sakura and ask for the Dark Templar to help you." I said, "How can I get to Sakura without a ship, with slip space, or cold sleep?" She stared at me, and she pointed to some dog tags in a glass case behind me. I told her, "So they're dog tags from the..." Then I smiled my psycho smile, because I had to steal an alien ship that the CIA had in Area 51. I asked the Army, "Where is Area 51?" They said,
"Sorry, kid, but no one is allowed in Area 51.
I was ticked to death and yelled, "I have to stop an invasion from happening, and I can't get a starship to get to my destination! How do you explain that?" The Army knew I was talking about, and blindfolded me and took me there. There were some scientists working on the ship. I examined the ship and said, "Nice, it has blasters. I like that." The scientists were surprised at what I said. Of course, Seasonbringer came too. One of the scientists said,
The ship is very small. Only 2 people can fly it. You'll need a co-pilot.
Then I pointed at Seasonbringer's direction, and he looked at Seasonbringer and said,
He a friend?
I said, "No, he's my co-pilot." The scientist said,
Wait, he's your co-pilot?
and I said, "Yeah, so what more do you want?" Then the scientist said,
Alright, he can be your co-pilot. Do you know how to fly that thing?
I said, "Of course I know how to fly the goddamn thing. What did you expect? Mechs, Gundams, huge robots, and many others." The scientists were surprised that I had piloted all those things and said,
I believe you can fly that thing.
and I said, "Just give me the damn keys." Seasonbringer and I were off to learn about my Dark Templar powers. Right when we got there, it was hard to breathe on the planet, but we trained in the depths of a black hole for about a year. So then we were ready. After a few minutes, we were breathing normally, and we set out, but when we found a Dark Templar camp, we had to get in without getting killed. I transformed to Super Saiyan Stage 2, and Seasonbringer transformed to his extremely strong form, and we walked up to one of their watchtowers and called up, "Hey, I'm looking for Zeratul. Do you know where he is?" The guards laughed and yelled,
No human cannot enter.
I used my speed to get up to one of the towers and stood on the rail with only my toes on it and said, "If you let us in, we won't kill you, okay?" They just squeaked,
Yes.
and then they let us in, and I learned how to use my Dark Templar powers. Now I can finally kill the goddamn fucking Overmind.
Overmind complete.
I tried to contact Kerrigan, but instead I saw a big, ugly eye, and I heard it say in a deep, freaky voice that said, "I am now complete. Now I can control the swarm." I knew that voice. I said, "Shit, it's too late. It is complete, and Kerrigan is..." No, I failed to save Kerrigan from becoming a slave to the Overmind. Seasonbringer said,
It's all right. We didn't know the Overmind grew that quickly.
and I said, "Okay, let's think of a plan to kill the Overmind." Seasonbringer said,
Reinforcements?
that triggered something in my mind, and I said, "We need an army of predators to help us out." Seasonbringer yelled,
Are you crazy? The Predators won't ally with a human?
I said, "Chill, Seasonbringer. I can tell them it is an emergency, and they will help,"
I don't trust them.
said Seasonbringer. "Neither do I. But are you seeing me complaining?" Seasonbringer said.
No, but we need an army of some sort.
Then Zeratul walked up to me and said,
What's going on?
I answered, "The Overmind is back and wants revenge on the Dark Templar." Zeratul said,
So, it's back. We will help you, but our leader is gone.
I said, "I'll try to find your leader." Then I got another transmission that had a bad connection. It was a very old friend named Takanuva, the Toa of Light, and he said,
The Toa will help you fight, but we can't get to where you are.
I asked the Dark Templar to build a warp gate, and then I asked Takanuva to tell the Toa to build a warp gate, and tried to open a portal from Sakura to Matanui, and it worked. All 7 Toa were on the planet Sakura. Then the portal began to spit Zerglings out, and I yelled, "Shut the warp gate!" And the portal faded away, stopping the Zerglings. After we killed the Zerglings, I told the Toa about the mission. The Toa understood the mission, but I needed backup just in case we were going to get overrun. Then I tried a different frequency to try and gain the Toa Metru to help fight, and the Toa Metru got there too. I told them the whole story, and they understood the mission. We then used a Proto shuttle to get to Char.
The slaughter of the Zerg.
After we landed, I made sure the landing site wasn't in the middle of the hive, But we weren't. We were about 3 miles away from the Zerg hive cluster, and I said, we are outnumbered, 50 against 2 billion. I told the Toa to stay near the shuttle, just in case we were going to get ourselves killed. I said to Seisenbringer, I go Super Saiyan Stage 2, while you go... Before I could finish, he went Super Saiyan. I was surprised and told him quietly, how did you go to Super Saiyan in such a short time? He answered,
while you were in the hospital, I did some training, and I triggered something in me that made me transform.
I said, okay, 2 Super Saiyans against 2 billion Zerg. Let's go show the Overmind who's boss. Ready, Seisenbringer? He said,
yay, let's go.
And we both charged in, energy blazing. There was no way the Overmind could know what was going on. We killed every goddamn Zerg that was guarding the Overmind. The only thing that was in our way was Kerrigan. I told Seisenbringer that it was my duty to either free her or kill her. I knocked her out and told Seisenbringer to get her as far away as you can. Then I went Super Saiyan Stage 5, and I said, it's time to die, you ugly son of a bitch! And with that, I used my Dark Templar powers, combined with my Super Saiyan powers, to perform my Wind Scar technique, to vaporize the goddamn, fucking, piece of shit Overmind. The blast vaporized the ugly son of a bitch, but the Celebeats were left, so he took care of them with ease. I finally decided to blow the whole fucking planet up, but Seisenbringer stopped me.
The awakening of the Ice Emeralds.
I actually had fun killing the Zerg, so did Seisenbringer. I later found out that I'm a half-breed. No wonder I could smell a moron a mile away. I'm half Saiyan, half wolf, which makes me extremely dangerous if you got on my bad side. I found out I go into a frenzy by the taste of blood, which is one reason not to tick me off, because you will either see a Super Saiyan or a wolf who is in a frenzy. I've earned the code names, the Angel of Death, and the God of Destruction, because I truly deserve those names for the amount of kills in 2 months. Not even God and Saturn can stop me, which is kind of cool, not having to worry about getting punished by God, because you can strike back at him. I just met a demon who petty killed off everyone when I wasn't alive. Seisenbringer still keeping the seasons in balance, as always. When I went to the Arctic, I felt a lot stronger than normal, like I was one with the ice. I found a secret wolf pack hidden in an extinct volcano while I was there. When I was there, I felt strange, like my body wanted to shatter, and a strange mark appeared on my face. I was going to ask what was going on, but right before I spoke, every one of them bowed down to me. I thought, what the fuck is going on here? I think the leader of the pack recognized the mark on my face. He said,
the Guardian has returned.
I asked, what are you talking about? I have no connection here whatsoever. He said,
come with me. I want to show you something.
And I did. Before I knew it, we were in a huge chamber with a huge gem on its shrine. I was amazed yet curious about the gem. I asked, what is that thing? And why is it so big? He told me,
that is the Master Ice Emerald. Only the Guardian can touch it. Go ahead, touch it.
I did. When I did, I felt a lot of energy surging into me. Something came out of me, and from that I blacked out. When I woke up, I was in a bed, bandaged up. After that, I wanted to see why my hand was bandaged up. I took the bandages off and screamed, holy shit! What the fuck is this mark? Everyone came in, and saw I had a golden burn mark on my hand. Later, the Elder came in, and was holding 7 small gems that I thought were the pieces of the Master Ice Emerald. I apologized to him for shattering it, until he told me,
these were hidden in your body, and these are the Ice Emeralds that allow you to go super.
I said in confusion, super?
Yes, super. It can make you even stronger than you are now.
I said, if I go super as a Super Saiyan, what will happen? He said,
you might lose control of your body.
I said sarcastically, I gotta try it someday. He screamed,
you joke about the dangers of the Ice Emeralds?
I said coolly, hey, I laugh at the dangers. Do you know why? He shrugged. I said, you haven't seen me go Super Saiyan Stage 5 yet, And that's fun, because just a little wave of my hand, I can destroy half the planet. After that, he backed up a few feet, from fear, I think. Or wanted me to show him.
Keikanu's revenge.
Before I could show him, there was an explosion. Both the Elder and I ran out of this den to see what was going on, and guess who we found? If you guessed Keikanu, you're right. The ugly son of a bitch is back, and very pissed off. I would be if that happened to me. I sensed he was a hell of a lot stronger from when I kicked his ass. I also smelled a lot of humans, which sucks. I remembered how I killed him before. Then I went Super Saiyan Stage 5 again, and started to prepare a strike with the Wind Scar, but I couldn't do it, because something was holding me back, like an inner demon. The Elder screamed something to me that sounded like,
You can't kill him that way! Use the emeralds!
I tried, but I couldn't. I yelled back, How can I kill him if I can't use him? Suddenly I remembered, I must do it in front of the Master Ice Emerald.
Keikanu's defeat again in Blade's insanity.
I, of course, couldn't resist to insult him. Slow think, Keikanu, old bone and bodfoot. That made him come after me. When we reached the chamber that held the Master Ice Emerald, he almost hit it, but when he got close, it fried him. I had to try my luck again in touching it, and the Ice Emerald started to glow, and I felt my powers growing. I finally struck him, and my arm was right through his chest, and I was holding his heart. I had finally killed him. When I emerged from the chamber, my right arm was covered in blood, and I dragged his body behind me. The humans saw what a big mistake they made by trying to kill me. My hair is pure white, and my eyes were bluish-greenish, and my aura is silver. Seasonbringer sensed my transformation and came to see what happened. I swear he was shaking in major fear when he saw me. I yelled, Who else wants to die? If you don't, too bad, so sad. And I killed all the humans in the area. I ran out of energy and went back to normal. When I looked up, there were bodies and blood everywhere. I asked, What happened? The Elder told me the whole story of what happened. I realized I couldn't control myself when I was in that state. Later I tried to transform, but I couldn't. I swore in frustration. The next thing I know, something landed on me.
Spin's arrival.
When I got ready to kill whatever landed on me, I found a hedgehog about my size staring at me. I asked, Who are you, and why are you my size? He didn't respond. I asked again, and he finally said, Spin the hedgehog. My mouth dropped wide open. I said, Spin? You mean you're the one who helped me get out of that trap? Yep, that was me. I asked, How'd you get here? He said, A portal opened and I fell in, and now I'm here. I told him, I opened that portal by accident. When I transformed, my power probably caused a small tear in the time-space continuum, and that caused you to arrive here in this time. Spin was amazed that I knew about the time-space continuum, and he asked, How do you know this? I replied, A little two-tailed fox told me. He said something under his breath that sounded like, Tails, you idiot. I told Spin I needed to know that to be able to go from dimension to another without damaging the fabric of time. I told him in my I'm not going to do something crazy tone of voice. I'm just getting ready to give the enemy a little payback. He said, Not Dr. Eggman. I told him, I'm not after him, you idiot. I'm after the dark gods, because I was a slave to them. He said nothing. I sighed and said, Would you help me discover the power of these emeralds? When I showed him, he was wondering how I got them. He agreed to help me, and I took him to the hyperbolic time chamber and spent 2 years in there. When we emerged, I knew how to use them. I decided to upgrade the ice emeralds, and I did. The ice emeralds were now super ice emeralds, which makes me go hyper. When I got the hang of going hyper, I decided to go Super Saiyan. When I did, he wasn't impressed. So I went Super Saiyan Stage 5, which scared him. I told him that I'm going to try my luck and go hyper as a Super Saiyan Stage 5 in the hyperbolic time chamber. When I did, I trained a bit to know what kind of power I was dealing with, Every step I took created a crater, so I hovered when I left the time chamber. I told Spin, I can't create the portal because with this power, I can destroy the fiber of time. I was ready to give chaos a whole new meaning of the word overkill, putting it lightly. While I was there, I also discovered I have the destructive angel arm ability. I shot it once in the chamber, and damn it's dangerous to anyone in front and the one who's using it. I had to tell Caesarbringer what I was doing. He screamed, "What are you, nuts? You're challenging chaos alone?" I said, "Yep, that's right, alone."
He was in disbelief that I would fight alone without him. He gave me that "can I come too" look, which always makes me say yes. I did. He was excited and impatient to fight an extremely old enemy of mine. I told Spin to open the portal. He did. I told him to close the portal when I gave the order, and his response was, "Eggs!" I punched him for that. I finally went through the portal with Seasonbringer.
Confronting chaos for the final time.
I said, "Location reached, facing chaos, battle routine set, execute." Seasonbringer said,
This isn't Battle Network.
I said, "Let's just get started." When I pulled Tetsuya from its scabbard, it didn't transform. I tried a different sword called Tetsume, and it did something I've never seen it do before. It transformed and glowed with an intense aura. The dark god sent hordes of demons at me, but then I slashed them, and they got destroyed. I realized Tetsume is the Chaos Killer. With it, I went Super Saiyan Stage 6, and then I went Hyper, which scared me, for I don't know what was going to happen. When I used it, when I did, the Eye of Terror wasn't damaged. Then I did my angel arm in my ultimate form. The shot was devastating, because I believed it almost destroyed the fucking Eye of Terror. I was helping the Imperial Guards and settling a score with Chaos for making me kill all those people when I didn't want to. Something came out of the Eye of Terror. It was my corrupted form, holding the Slayer of Swords, the Chaos Sword of the Dark God.
The final battle between light and dark.
I pulled Tetsume out and fought him in a one-on-one match to the death. I used the Wind Scar, combined with my power, to deliver a destructive slash that could destroy the universe. The blast did kill him for the 900th time and destroy the Slayer of Soul, but I made sure he won't recover, so I used judgment and chose his fate. My decision was to send him to hell, and I did. I had to finish the destruction of the Eye of Terror. I made sure I did it with my angel arm, with the energy that was gathered from around the universe, and used my energy as well.
Destruction of chaos.
I yelled, "This is it, Chaos! Your time has finally run out! Now die, you goddamn ugly motherfucker, son of a bitch, piece of shit! Oh yeah! Go to hell, you ugly bastard!" I aimed the blast, aiming straight into the heart of the warp. Caesarbringer told me to flee before the blast detonates. I told him, "No, I will stay here to make sure it's truly gone." He fled to Pluto and watched the explosion. He sensed me before the blast detonated, and after the explosion, he lost my signal and screamed, "No!" And he started crying.
Blade! Why'd you have to die? Rebirth of Blade.
5 years later, he told everyone that I died in armor, trying to end a threat. Everyone came to my funeral. Caesarbringer was about to say his goodbyes to me when I appeared right behind him. Everyone was either gasping in amazement or fear. I gave the "be quiet" signal and said, "Whose funeral is this?" He said,
It's Blade. He's dead.
I said, "Oh, really?" When I said that, he jumped about 5 feet and he turned around and I was standing right behind him and said, "It looks like you've just seen a ghost," because his face was shocked to see me. He screamed, punching me straight in the face.
You asshole! You scared me half to death! I thought you were killed in the blast!
I shrugged and he asked,
How'd you escape the blast?
I told him, Angel grabbed me before the blast hit me and brought me up to heaven to tend my wounds from the battle against my corrupted self. He didn't believe me until I pointed in the direction of a guy wearing a white cloak with a halo over his head. Seasonbringer gasped in amazement. I later told Seasonbringer that I was given the job of the judge in heaven.
Everything is normal again.
Life continued as normal, except when I had to do my job, which is both fun and boring. But hey, I don't care, as long as I can stay on Earth. I'm allowed to go to hell and do some sparring with my corrupted side, and do some pranks while I'm there. I sometimes go to where the Eye of Terror once was, and I sit on a planet close to it, and remember the fight that made history. I visit the Emperor once in a while to hang out and teach the Space Marines some of my fighting skills. I visit Matanui and Metro Nui. When I get there, I'm greeted happily by the Toa and Matarin alike. They still have the warp gate they built, which is still functional. They use it to come to this world when they want to see me, or just to have fun. I did not know what was going to happen to me, but I don't like it.
Hey, it's been a while, but this is Normalman, and I'm back with Christian Humber Reloaded Part 3.
The mutation.
When I went back to Metro Nui, I found I went back too far in time, and I got ambushed by Vizorak and got captured. I blacked out. When I woke up, I was in a cocoon, and I ended up getting poisoned. I, of course, swore my ass off. The only thing that stopped my continued swearing was the effect of the poison kicking in. It felt like I was being torn apart. Then my robotic arm became an icy claw. I sort of freaked out when I was plummeting to my death, but something caught me. The next morning, I was wondering where I was, but I tripped and fell face first into a pool of water. I saw I was not myself anymore. I was an ugly motherfucker. I tried to get rid of my reflection. I asked myself, what's happened to me? A strange creature approached me and said, "You're Horkata, and what's your name?" I said, "The name's Blade. Chaos Hunter Blade." When I said that, it backed away, in fear, I think. I stood up and began walking towards it, but every time it took a step, it backed away a step, which began to annoy me, so I used my speed and got behind it so it backed up right into me. I asked, "Why are you running from me? I won't kill you unless you keep doing what you're doing right now." It finally said, "My name is Norik." I screamed, "Norik? Didn't you help Vakama when he was in the same fucking state I'm in right now?" He said, "I did, but you have to learn how to use your Horteka powers, like Vakama, but don't take the same path he did." I said, "I won't follow the path of darkness. The path of light is the only path I will take." He introduced me to the rest of the Rahiga. I personally like Iruni because he's hilarious.
The first fight in my Horteka state.
I was exploring the Metru I was in. The Metru was in ruins. From my knowledge of Metru Nui, I was in Ley Metru. Everything but one aircraft hangar had been destroyed. I had an encounter with a Rahi. Before I could use Tetsume, something on my back activated and scared it. I was wondering what just happened when Norik appeared and told me it was lonely and you would act the same way. I told him, "That's nothing new to me, because I was always alone. I was born as a fucking stray," smashing something. I looked at what I just did. He told me, "Be careful of your anger, because it will cause the poison to work faster." "I don't care! I just want to be my old fucking self again!" I said in frustration. He just shook his head.
The search for Kitangu.
When I was getting a drink of water, I saw what I believed to be the Toa Horkata. I followed them, but I saw smoke coming from the great temple. I said in my mind, "Who did this? And why?" I helped dig Norik out from the rubble. After that, Norik told the Toa and I,
"Follow the tears of Kometru until they reach the sky."
After hearing that, I did go with the Toa and Norik to Kometru. I found out they really do reach the sky. I followed the Toa into the structure, and in the middle was a pool. Matau made a sarcastic remark, which was, "It's Kitangu, not." I could tell he wanted to change back to his normal self again. Norik said something, and the water rippled, and on a small iceberg was a figure sitting cross-legged. Norik said, "Kitangu." I asked, "Kitangu? So that's him?" Norik said, "Yes, that's him. That's Kitangu." It said something in a way different language, that I could not understand it at all. The Toa said, "Kitangu, what happened?" And I heard the one who lit the great temple on fire was Vakama. I screamed, "I'm going to kill this son of a bitch for burning the great temple!" Norik told me to calm down. But how could I calm down when a friend almost burned a holy temple to Metro Nui down? Wenua smacked me over the head, and I calmed down again.
"Hey, bastards! Knock, knock!"
Norik told me where the Mandarin might be, so I told the Toa and Norik that I was going to run ahead and have a little fun, and they let me. I used one of my scout droids to check where Visorek's kill zone was, but I found out the fortress was heavily guarded. I didn't care, because I have infiltrated a more heavily guarded place. But instead of infiltrating, I decided to enter the more traditional way, which was to blow everything to hell. I did, by waiting until night, and I got Wing Zero's beam rifles ready. I was giving the Horde a nice little "I'm here" present. When the Toa arrived, I told them what I had set up as a way for entering. Matau screamed, "You're going to destroy the gate to the Colosseum?" I said, "Keep your voice down, or else my element of surprise will be destroyed," sharply. When Kitangu arrived, I yelled, "Hey, bastards! Knock, knock!" over a loudspeaker, and pulled the triggers. The look on the Visorek's faces would be classic, if they had emotions. It was so funny when their front door was blown off its hinges inwards by the blast. I calmly stepped into the entrance, and turned the music, which proves to be my Killing Spree theme song, which is Assault.
The true meaning of Killing Spree.
I made sure that I was prepared to go insane by having my demon and Horteika sides combine to become too dangerous in that state. I also went into my ultimate form. Then my theme song came on, and there were thousands of Visorek charged me. I pulled Tetsume out and used my ice claw to tell them, "You're screwed." They didn't realize that until most of them were dead. About 100 Visorek grabbed me. They made a very fatal mistake. I powered up, flinging them into walls. And I was a killing machine. When I have certain songs come on, Kitangu was climbing the wall, while I was clearing a path for the Toa.
The final battle against Kosongto.
While I was cleaning the Visorak out of the way, I got hit by someone, or something. When I recovered, I saw Kosongto, my brother. I knew he was still being possessed by the demon I almost killed before. But this time, I would make sure the demon would die and go to hell. I used only my claws to fight, and it was intense. Most of the floors were destroyed by the fight. I screamed, "This is it, you goddamn ugly motherfucker! Let my brother go!" And I used an ancient technique called the Claw of Exorcism. It didn't kill Kosongto, but it killed the demon that controlled him. He was wondering what happened, and where was he. I told him, "You're in Metro Nui, and how are you feeling?" He said, "I feel like shit, and very tired." I picked him up and carried him to a place where he could be safe. He asked me, "What happened to you?" I told him, "You need to rest." He said something that sounded like, "You're a Horteika. I always wanted to be one." I was surprised when he said that. I said, "You'll hate it, because you have no idea how hard it is just to keep yourself from losing control." I remembered that I have a mission. Norik approached me and said,
"I will keep an eye on him. Go. The Toa need you now."
I said, "Thank you." I then yelled, "Here I come, Vakama, to show you what it's like to be an ugly beast!"
going through the floors to the roof.
Giving Vakama a piece of my fucking fist.
When I reached the roof, I saw Matau and Vakama fighting each other. I joined in, so it was the 2 versus 1 fight. I got knocked off the roof. While I was falling, my powers kicked in, and I flew back up to the roof and slugged Vakama square in the face. He responded to getting slugged. He almost knocked me off again, but ended up getting a shotgun barrel up against his forehead. I heard Matau scream for help, because he was hanging on by a limb. I tried to help him, but I missed his hand. The next thing I know, Vakama jumps off, and I jumped in as well. When I got on the ground, I saw a huge crater. In it was Kitangu. I said in my mind, "Kitangu! No! I was too late! I failed to save Kitangu!" The next thing I saw was Kitangu killing Sidorak. I told Kitangu, "Damn! You smashed that fucker to bits!" Then a huge projectile hit, and the Toa and I were thrown down, but I hit the wall.
Oh shit! Makuta is free!
Rodika was riding a huge Vizorak. She was very ugly, and when I called her that, she grabbed and held my throat. Finally, something happened. My spinner finally activated, and I released the shot. It hit her right in the face. I used my shotgun and shot, placing 6 slugs in her ugly face. Then the Toa released their spinners. Finally, Vakama shot last, but when she hit the ground, a huge red smoky hand came out of her chest and grabbed her body, and disappeared. A black stone dropped, and Vakama said, "Her heartstone. It belongs to Makuta." Norik said, "Do you know what you've done? You've broken the seal that held Makuta." I could not believe what I just heard. I yelled, "What? Makuta is still alive?" I forgot that he gets killed by Takanuva. Norik said, "What was that?" And I yelled, "It's nothing." I picked up the black stone. Then the Toa called me over and asked what I was doing with the black stone. I told him everything. Kitangu and I were in the middle. Kitangu used his power to turn the Toa back to normal, and I got back to my original form again, but I kept my Horteika powers. I had Kitangu's and my powers combined to make the soil bullet shadow black. My shotgun and Magun got powered up, and I used the Magun to open a path to Matanui. When we got there, I stood back and watched the Toa become Taraga. After their transformation, I walked over, kneeled, and said, "Toa, no, Taraga. It was an honor to fight along your side for Metro Nui." Vakama walked over and said,
Thank you, Blade, for helping.
I said, "No problem, but I forgot to do something." He said,
What's that?
I powered up and sent the blast into the ocean and screamed, "Don't ever burn another great temple! If you do, I will come back here and make you regret it! Okay?" He nodded, and I said, "Good." I looked at my watch and said, "Shit! I should really got to get going, because I'm screwed if I don't get back home." I waved goodbye.
Everything is normal again. Well, sort of.
I was right about getting busted, because I was gone for a year. I got grounded for a month for being away that long. I sometimes have my Horteika side show, but I got arrested again for killing someone, so I rarely show that side.
The fight against every human in Miami.
After I got out being grounded, I went back to the ruined Metro Nui, and I helped clear the rest of the Vizorak. But something went wrong. The Toa and I were transported, in our Horteika forms, right into the middle of a football game. The whole game came to a screeching halt. I yelled, "Hi," over a loudspeaker. We heard the announcer say,
"These strange creatures appeared out of nowhere."
Then the police and army came in. I said, "Looks like we will have to fight to get out, but don't kill anyone." Then I got shot in the shoulder, and I resumed what I was saying. On second thought, let's show these people what it's like to face 6 Horteika and 1 very pissed demon Horteika. Ready? They nodded. I set my theme song to battle and said, Here we go. Right when my song came on, I fired my spinner at the crowd, killing at least 15 people. 3 hours later, everyone who was there was killed. I think it was called the Super Bowl 53 Massacre, because all 6 million people there were killed, including the cops.
The escape from Miami.
We had to run through the streets with about all of Miami's police force hot on our tails. Everyone were out with their guns shooting at us. I yelled back, "Keep dodging! I'll fall back and take out the bogeys!" And I did. Then I caught up to the Toa and found them pinned on the ground, so I used my ice claw and struck the ground, freezing the cops. 10 hours later, we finally made it out of Miami. We went into hiding to avoid being taken to Area 51. I opened the portal to Metro Nui, and when the cops found us, I was the last one to enter the portal. After I stepped through, I started to close the portal, but a cop got through. So I gave him to the Visorak to mutate, but I told him, don't turn him into Horteka. Turn him into a freak of nature. They did, and I sent him back to my world through a small portal, and we watched him get taken to Area 51. I don't know how he is, and I don't want to know either. 3 months later, I went back to Area 51 to check up on the freak of nature. When I saw him, I laughed, and the scientists found out I made the cop a freak, so I had to escape, and I almost did. When I got tranquilized.
Deja vu.
When I woke up, I was in a cage. I started to swear at them when they electrocuted me. When that happened, a flashback came to me. After that flashback, I remembered that this is the same incident that happened to me when I was a cub. I said, deja vu. The scientists were confused until I started talking to myself about what happened to me. Then I remembered scientists killed my brother, and I broke out and escaped.
The true power of Tetsume, and learning you're screwed.
After I escaped, I went back to the Arctic, and when I went back to the extinct volcano, I saw Kosongto helping out collecting herbs. I called out, "Kosongto, don't pick the plant with 3 leaves, because it's poisonous." He looked up and saw me standing on a rock and said, "Blade, thank you for rescuing me." I said, "No problem, that's what being brothers is about." Another wolf approached me and said, "The Elder wants to see you and Kosongto." Kosongto and I looked at each other, and then when we found the Elder, he told us,
"The swords on the back wall are the swords created for both of you, Blade. Your sword is on the top, and Kosongto, yours is on the bottom."
We both picked our swords. I drew Tetsume out, and looked both swords I was holding are the same sword. But something happened, and Tetsume and the other sword I was holding merged. I asked, "What just happened?" The Elder told me that both swords became one, the true Tetsume. There was an explosion, and I smelled humans again, and the same demon I killed twice already, Keikanu. I was not his first target. His target was Kosongto. Keikanu killed him with ease. That pissed me off, and I used Tetsume, which didn't even scratch him. I was going to give up, when Kosongto's sword glowed, and Tetsume did the same. The Elder told me that the third sword was glowing. Then, right before my eyes, all 3 swords fused, and in each of the gems on them shot out a very familiar symbol. The 3 virtues, unity, duty, and destiny. I found out Tetsume, Tetkume, and Wolfclaw are the real swords that held a virtue. Tetsume is the sword of destiny, Tetkume is the sword of duty, and Wolfclaw is the sword of unity. I then used Tetsume, and it scratched him. I remembered I must have had the virtues in my heart, but I had only one of the virtues then. The Toa Nuva, Metru, and Horteka appeared, and the Toa and I held Tetsume and yelled, "Unity, duty, and destiny!" When we said that, the Tetsume glowed, and I used it against Keikanu. This time, I slashed him to pieces, and I used my powers to destroy him completely. Again,
when I went to my ultimate form and killed all the humans. But I didn't finish Keikanu. When he got back up, the look on his face was classic, because all my sides were united. Wolf, Saiyan, Demon, and Horteka. Which means you're extremely screwed.
Keikanu's death, finally.
He backed up in fear, from Ether sensing my power level, or by seeing my aura, which is a gold-silver color. I set my theme song to be Live and Learn. When my theme came on, I said, "Bring it on, ugly." He rushed at me, but he couldn't land a hit on me, because I was too damn fast. So he went to his demon form. He almost matched my speed and strength, but he couldn't. The Elder saw I wasn't in my ultimate form, but my mega form. My eyes are pure white. My hair is a gold blue white color. And there is a hell of a lot more electricity flashing around me. Seasonbringer sensed both my transformations, and he sensed my power level, and came to see what had a power level that high. He saw Keikanu, and he realized the one with the power level so high, not even the strongest scouter could measure it without blowing up, was me. When I saw him, he backed away in fear. I quickly stunned Keikanu and walked towards Seasonbringer, and he kept backing up until I told him, "Why are you running from me? I'm not going to hurt you." He said,
"Get back before I'm forced to kill you."
I said, "Seasonbringer, it's me, Blade." He said,
"Blade? Is that you?"
I said, "Of course, dumbass. Who else would call you by your name?" He asked,
"What happened to you? You look different."
Then Keikanu stood up and struck Seasonbringer to the ground. When that happened, I just lost it. In about 3 seconds, I ripped Keikanu limb from limb, and then I blasted him after I tore out his heart again. And this time, I sent him to heaven, where it's hell for demons.
The truth behind Chaos Blade.
After I killed Keikanu, my corrupted self appeared, and the Elder told me that Chaos Blade was no other than my shadow that got separated from me when Chaos controlled me. The Elder told me in order for Chaos Blade to stay in this world, he would have to absorb people until he has enough power to stay in my world. He was almost transparent, and then he ran to a city. I followed, and saw him shoot out these tentacles that suck a civilian into his body. In about 3 hours, he absorbed everyone in the city. He did that to 2 cities. The 3rd time, I saw him absorb the residents in the 3rd city, and something happened. I have learned how to absorb things. I had to learn how to absorb things, and I did it in about 2 hours. Then I found Chaos Blade. He was not so transparent anymore, so I killed the demon in him, and then I used the absorption technique, and I was finally restored to my complete self, and in doing so, I was a hell of a lot stronger. But when I got punched in the stomach, and I spit him out, I had to find a new way to stay complete. I used the merge skill, and became one.
The true nature of Area 51.
After I became whole again, I hacked into Area 51's database, and found something I did not like. It was that Area 51 was using humans as food for Chaos in order to bring the Eye of Terror back. I told Seasonbringer when I found. He didn't like my discovery at all. I told Seasonbringer what I did to reach my full power. He backed away after hearing I merged with my corrupted self, thinking I would become evil. But I told him, I killed the demon that had my shadow, so you don't have to be afraid anymore. He sighed of relief until I told him, I'm not going to let Area 51 revive the Eye of Terror. If it is all my efforts to weaken it, it would have been in vain. I marked on a map of the United States where it was.
The odds against me. Fun.
I showed Seasonbringer where Area 51 is, and after I told him what he was supposed to do, he did make a good distraction to allow me to infiltrate the faculties. I reached the security control center and locked the door. over a comm channel that only I and Caesarbringer could use. I told him, I'm in, so you can tell the Toa. The Gatling cannons will be disabled to allow you to enter. I turned all the cameras off, so when the Toa and Caesarbringer entered, they would not get caught. The way I infiltrated was the ventilation duct. I made sure I found the security control center. I carefully removed the grate, climbed down, and slit the officer's throat, and hid his corpse in a vent. When Caesarbringer asked how I knew this place, I told him, it is sort of like the lab where I escaped from when I was only 6. Does that answer your question? He said,
Yeah, it does. But how did you become telepath?
I told him, the experiments they did on me. Then a banging on the door happened, and I said, Shit! Quick, hide! He did, and I sat in the chair and opened the door when an officer entered and asked,
Anything new happen?
I said, Nope, just the normal, boring shit. And he said,
Okay, well, I was just checking up on you.
He was turning around when I locked the door. He asked,
What are you doing?
I said in my normal voice, Getting a little revenge, spinning the chair around that way so he could see my face. He screamed out,
Oh shit! It's Blade!
Then I killed him and put the officer's body in the air vent with the other corpse.
The true race against time.
I was looking for the lab that had a portal, and I found it in Sector 40. I wrote the sector's name down and stripped a corpse of its clothing and put on my costume and walked out after I told Caesarbringer to wait for me outside the base. The Toa also dressed up as security guards. When I entered the sector, the scientist said,
We need more sacrifices for the warp. They are in Sector 20.
When I got to Sector 20, there were a lot of prisoners. They thought I was going to take them into the portal, but I killed the guard who was in the prison area, and I told them, It's okay, I'm here to rescue you. They played along. When I walked all into the portal, then the scientist took 3 of them and began a sacrifice. But when one of the scientists turned around, I stabbed one of my metal climbing claws through his chest. The scientist set the alarm off, and a squad of Marines came in, and right in front of them I tore my costume off to reveal my true self, and they opened fire on me, and I went insane, killing everyone. The Toa were fighting real well, until Sidorak stepped out of the portal, and I charged at Sidorak, hoping to kick him back into the portal, but he tricked me. That way the tentacles coming out of the portal would draw me inside and separate me again. But when I got sucked in, everyone in the facility stopped fighting, and the scientists cheered, because I was the ultimate sacrifice to revive the Eye of Terror. But something that they didn't expect was I got spit out, and the portal closed and formed a keyhole. Then Tetkume became a huge key that I identified as a keyblade. I stuck the key into the keyhole, and then turned it, until I heard a click, and pulled it out, and the keyhole disappeared.
The birth of the Omega weapon.
Then another portal opened, and out stepped someone I know very well, Sora. I greeted him, and he asked,
Why is there so much blood and bodies everywhere?
I told him, these assholes tried to revive Chaos, and I stopped them from doing so. Then Sora's keyblade and mine glowed and fused, and so did Sora and I. When the bright light dimmed, I was holding the Omega weapon, and when I looked in the mirror, I had Sora's hair, and his personality. Then I went Super Saiyan, and killed the scientists, and told the Toa to get out of the facility, because I was going to destroy Area 51. And it was easy to do.
The destruction of Area 51.
I made the strongest blast I could as a Super Saiyan. Then I launched it while deep inside the facility. The blast was devastating when it blew. The damage it did was extensive. The crater was massive, and I was standing right in the middle of it. Then Sora and I separated, and we knew we were unstoppable when we were fused.
Revealing a home.
After that, I took Sora to the Arctic. He was shivering when he asked me,
Aren't you cold from this environment?
I told him no, because I was born in this climate.
3 hours later, he fainted, and I had to hurry to get him into the volcano. When I got him in there, he regained his senses. When he looked around, he ran outside, and I followed. He was surprised that it was warm inside the volcano, and he asked me, "Where are we?" I told him, "We are in an extinct volcano, and I was born right here in this place." After I said that, he looked at me like, "What the hell did you just say?" Look. Other wolves came out and saw him and got ready to kill him when I said, "He's a friend of mine, and this is his first time here, so be kind to him." They didn't trust him, but they were nice to him. But when it came to dinner, he didn't have anything to eat. So I caught him something, and I cooked it for him, and he ate it.
Locating the dark portal.
Then I got a transmission. It was Seasonbringer, and he told me,
"I have real bad news. Strange creatures are coming out of a portal."
I asked, "Chaos?" He said,
"No, I got a picture of one of the creatures."
When Sora saw the picture, he said something under his breath that sounded like, "Heartless." I asked, "What's a Heartless?" And Sora told me everything. I said in my "let's go kick some ass" voice, Seasonbringer told me the coordinates of where the portal is. I recognized where the portal is. The same place I was raised, in that laboratory I destroyed when I was 6 years old. Sora asked me, "What's wrong?" I said, "The location of the portal is in the ruins of the laboratory I destroyed when I was 6 years old." I took Sora to the ruined lab, and we found the portal, which was deep within the facility, in an area that was not damaged. But before we entered the ruined lab, I brought some weapons with me, just in case things got real ugly. I gave Sora an assault rifle, and taught him how to use it. I, of course, was equipped with one of my favorite weapons, the minigun, with tons and tons of ammo, for trigger happiness. Sora just gave me a "what are you thinking" look. I told him why I had a minigun. He complained about who gets the minigun, so I gave him another assault rifle. I showed him how to wield dual weapons. He asked,
"Where did you get all these weapons?"
I told him, "An armory in a military base." I also showed him my most prized gun, the shotgun Kaze gave me. I also showed him a shotgun that I customized to become a caster shotgun. I gave Sora a black trench coat, sunglasses, and submachine guns with lots of holsters and ammo. I was wearing a black trench coat, sunglasses, leather gloves, and I also had submachine guns with lots of holsters and lots of ammo. When I looked at Sora, he had the sunglasses on upside down. So I fixed it, and we went in. I was surprised that some people were exploring the ruins for information about the destruction of the laboratory.
The slaughter.
I told the people to leave the ruins for their safety, but they didn't pay attention to me until I pulled a shotgun out and pointed it point blank at the guy's head. He told his friends to kill me, but I was the one who killed, by using my metal climbing claws to rip hearts out. The other guys ran away. I found the secret entrance to the undamaged areas in the lab. There were scientists still working on some experiments. I asked in a sarcastic voice, "Did you miss me?" When they all turned around and saw me standing there, they all backed up against the wall and said,
"Don't hurt us! We're innocent!"
I said sarcastically, "Really? You're experimenting on wolves again, so you die." And I killed them all in cold blood. When we entered an area where security was tight, I walked in through the metal detector. It beeps, and the officer said,
"Please remove all metal items from your..."
I opened my trench coat, revealing submachine guns. He said, "Holy shit!" And I knocked him back, and I drew 2 submachine guns out, and dashed under the checkpoint, guns blazing. Then a SWAT team came in, and one of them yelled, "Freeze!" Sora and I looked at each other, and we ran in different directions. It was an intense firefight. The number of kills Sora and I had was massive. I used up all my ammo for the submachine guns, and so did Sora. I, of course, picked up 2 auto shotguns, and kept it for later use. After we left the lobby, it was totaled. We used the elevator as a decoy for when they were going to destroy the elevator doors, but I set a nuke charge in the elevator for after we sealed the portal. One of the officers told the officers on the floor below us that they were going to have some real nasty company. I knew it, because my hearing told me. I had our theme song ready, Assault, and I told Sora,
to stay away from those doors because they're going to open fire when the elevator stopped at the desired floor. I was right about the officers opening fire. I, of course, had grenades, and I used them. They threw nerve gas onto the elevator, hoping to flush us out. Sora had a gas mask. When our theme song came on, I stepped out of the elevator, holding 2 assault rifles, and I opened fired. I used all my ammo for it. I made sure the power for the next floor was out, but it wasn't. So I shot out all the lights with a silenced pistol to prevent a guard from raising an alarm if we get spotted. The guard caught on. When I shot out the first light, he saw me and rushed at us. Sora took him out, and I finished shooting the lights out. Sora doesn't have my night vision ability, so he wanted to see where we were going, and I gave him night vision goggles. Of course, I can't detect heat signatures, so I brought the thermal vision goggles for that purpose only. It did help in finding there were enemies around the corner.
Giving a whole new meaning to the word overkill.
When we reached the second to last floor, the floor was in ruins and had strange pulsating veins on the walls. I thought Chaos did this, until a guard came screaming at the top of his lungs, running towards Sora and I, and right behind him was a demon. So I identified it as Hell was becoming reality. I killed the demon with a well-placed shot from my pistol between the eyes. The guard thanked me until I stepped out of the shadows. He turned and began to run the other direction when I caught his shirt and asked what happened here. He was probably too scared. So I shook him and asked him again, and this time he told us everything we wanted to know, except where this outbreak originated. I walked over to where a huge plant-like demon was, just out of range of his jaws, and held him out to it, and he told me where the problem started. I said, thanks, and I tied him up just inches away from its mouth. But it was in the way, so I used my caster shotgun to blast it. The guard thanked me for not feeding him to it, but I didn't know which way to go. So I picked him up and drew my pistol and pointed it into his back, and I said, take us there. He was still quivering, and I thrusted the barrel of my pistol into his back and repeated, take us there. Every demon that appeared, Sora and I killed, until we reached the source of why Hell appeared right before our eyes. The scientists got killed. Then all the demons in the room spotted us and began to rush. Sora and I both drew our shotguns. I had my 2 auto shotguns out and fully loaded. I switched one of their settings from pump to full auto. We opened fired. Every demon that got too close to us ended up getting blasted. I got shot from a pistol in the back, and when I turned around, a zombie was holding an automatic pistol, and I used my speed to get behind it and pointed an auto shotgun at point-blank range and fired. The shot vaporized the zombie's head, and I took its pistol for later use. I yelled to Sora, I'm getting awfully sick and tired of all these fucking demons and zombies, so duck and cover, whipping my caster shotgun out. Sora did hit the dirt, and I fired, and every demon and zombie in the room got vaporized in the blast. Then I found the stairs to the last floor.
Trigger happiness time.
When we reached the last floor, we were running really low on ammo for our guns, so we searched the floor for an armory. And when I looked on the blueprint of the facility, I found out the armory is on the 6 floors above us. So we went back up the stairs and found the armory. The lock was still working, so I used a well-placed punch to the lock, breaking it off. I opened the door and found a room filled with guns and ammo. Sora reloaded all of his guns, and I did the same. But we both picked up some new guns, including one of my favorites, the Samurai, which is a beam weapon that is lethal when fired. Sora liked the grenade launcher, because it can blow a door down with one shot. I continued to search the armory for hidden rooms, and I did find one, and when I opened it, I found the MOG. That's mother of all guns. The pulse projection rifle. It can fire a beam that can level a facility in one shot. I took it, just in case my nuke charge didn't do the job. There were other guns. Sora was just about said until he saw what I found, and he just shook his head, saying,
What are you thinking?
I nodded with my insane, serious smile. I told him where I found it, and guess what he found? He found a fucking Thundega 437 Hellfragger rocket launcher. My mouth was wide open when I saw it. After we reloaded, got back down to the bottom floor, I forgot to arm the nuke, so I went back to the armory and armed it for remote detonation. We were finally ready for the onslaught that was behind the door. I nodded to Sora, and he nodded back to me. And I had my minigun out, and loaded Sora had his Hellfragger out. I told him, not yet. So he switched to an Ames 20, which I also have. I kicked the door down, and the look on the Heartless's faces were classic when they saw two people in black trench coats, sunglasses, and some very good guns in hand. They were pretty much screwed when we both opened fire. I yelled something to Sora, and he got behind me. I set my trigger-happy song to Assault, and whooped out a second minigun. Then I activated my armor, Blade Zero, which can only be worn by a wolf, or by someone who has wolf blood flowing through his veins. I strapped both miniguns to my arms and yelled, "Now all you go to hell, you ugly motherfuckers!" I pressed the triggers. The amount of ammo spent probably set a world record, but I didn't care, because I was too trigger-happy to notice.
Oh shit! Heartless demons and humans.
When I used all the ammo from my miniguns, I threw them aside and used my claws to kill more Heartless. Then, before I knew it, I heard,
"Freeze! You're under arrest for the murder of 300 scientists and officers."
When I turned around, there was the SWAT team, FBI, and the Army, with guns pointed at me. I said, "I'm a little busy right now, so can you wait?" killing a Heartless. They shot and managed to ding my armor. I said, "What the fuck, man?" And after I said that, about 6 Heartless killed 9 soldiers, and they responded to the deaths of their partners. Then matters got a hell of a lot worse. Demons from hell appeared and joined the fight. I, of course, got sick and tired of the fight, and when I looked over, I saw Sora bleeding from his waist. I got over there and killed the demons and zombies approaching him. I picked him up and carried him to the medical room. There were some doctors there. I told them, "He needs medical help, real bad." They were scared, because I think they heard of me. I extended one of my metal claws, and they saw that I was not going to tolerate a friend's death, so they started to stitch up the gash in Sora's side. I saw blood on the floor, and I wondered where the blood came from, and then I found its source. My side! I used my powers to heal my wound. When Sora came out of the operating room, he was still somewhat conscious, and he said,
I can't fight anymore, because I have to heal.
I said nothing. Then I reopened his wound. He yelled, "What the hell are you doing?" I said nothing, and placed my hands on his wound, and started to use my ice powers. After about a minute, I collapsed due to exhaustion. When he looked at his wound, it was fully healed. He thanked me, and I told Sora to put me into a freezer, and he did. 2 hours later, I emerged from the freezer ready for battle. The doctors didn't know what just happened.
Revenge isn't sweet.
After we left the medical wing, I told Sora, "When I healed you, I gave you some of my power. You will feel a lot stronger, so be careful." Right when I said that, he punched the wall, putting a hole in it. I just shook my head and said, "I wonder who won the battle on the floor where the portal is." When I looked at the security camera on that floor, I replayed it to the time we fled, and we both saw what happened. The demons won that battle. Sora pulled his Hellfragger out, and I pulled my Samurai out, and set it to overcharge. We both got back down to the bottom floor. There was blood everywhere, and we killed the demons with ease. Sora did very well with his new powers, but he didn't learn how to use them. So I taught him.
I'm back for no good reason with Christian Humber Reloaded Part 4. The Search for Paradise begins.
Keikanu's brother.
3 years later, I was hanging out with some friends when I smelled someone very familiar. When I traced the scent to its source, I yelled, "Keikanu! I thought I killed you 3 years ago." He said,
So, you are the one who killed my brother.
I said, "Yeah, so? What's your point?"
For killing my brother, I will kill your loved ones.
I said, "You wouldn't dare do that, because if you do, I'm gonna hunt you down and make you pay dearly." He just laughed and cast a paralyzed spell on me, so I couldn't stop him from killing my friends. Before he killed them, He shape-shifted to look like me. That surprised me. After he killed my friends, he began to destroy cities, looking like me. After the spell wore off, I went searching for the imposter. But when I flew over a city, everyone in it began to run and hide. I didn't notice until I got shot down. After that happened, I had about 600,000 guns pointed at me. The general said,
For destroying 10 cities, you are under arrest.
I told him, I didn't do that. It was an imposter. I'm innocent. They just laughed. That ticked me off. I told him, I don't care what you think about me. I'm going to kill the imposter, and no one's going to stop me from doing so. So get out of my way! Then I flew straight up.
The world against me, and the hunt begins.
When I flew off, they made me a convict. That didn't bother me, because I was too focused on hunting the friggin' imposter. I followed the destruction, until I finally found the bastard who was giving me a real bad name.
Sealed for 20 years.
When I found him, I rushed at him in anger. We fought for a long time, before I got hit into a cave. I flew out and continued fighting. I got hit back into the cave, and before I could strike back, a priestess shot an arrow, hitting me in the shoulder and pinning me up against a stalagmite. I said, Kikyo, before passing out.
Reawakening.
20 years later. I stayed there for at least 20 years. A girl who accidentally fell into the cave where I was sealed found me asleep. She played with my hair for a bit. Then some people found her and took her to the village. I think a demon attacked, and she fled into where I was. But before she returned to the cave, I woke up and said, The scent of the one who killed me, it's drawing closer. When she came to where I was, the demon followed her and wrapped itself around her, pulling her up against me, and began to squeeze. I told her, if you don't want to die, remove that arrow from my body. She reached up, and an elder of the village yelled,
Don't remove that arrow. It contains the spell that holds Vash to the stalagmite.
She reached up and grabbed the arrow and yelled, Live again, Vash! The arrow disintegrated, and there was a flash of light, and I destroyed the demon.
The spell that hurts.
After I killed the fucking demon, I went after her. The elder made something and threw it around my neck. I didn't care. Then the elder yelled,
Utter a word that stops him.
She said, I said, Paralyze spell, that won't work on me. Then she said, Sit! After she said that, I fell on my face. I said, What the fuck happened? I will still kill you. The elder said,
You know what to do.
Sit, boy! Again, I landed on my face. The truth is that every time I get a girl, she either tries to kill me or try to seal me away. I hated that phrase, but I didn't show it. When she was at school, I would sometimes follow her and watch. When I entered a room at night, I would find her asleep or working on her homework. When she was working on her homework, I would help her on one of her assignments. But every time I did, she would yell, Sit! Causing me to land on my face. I told her nothing about my past because it would endanger me. She didn't like my clothes because they were tattered and my shoes were worn out, so she took me shopping. Man, she was annoying because we went into every shop in the fucking mall. I found some things I thought were cool, like a toilet with a built-in ass cleaner. Since I'm part wolf, well, put it together. I got kicked out of the store for drinking out of a toilet. It was actually quite funny and gross. My robotic arm malfunctioned and I had to find a mechanic to repair it, and I did.
The white Chikon jewel found.
She forced me to go with her to a museum, which I hated, until we saw the new jewel that was in a display case. I recognized it as the jewel I lost. I muttered, So there you are. I was looking all over for you. She asked, Who are you talking to? I told her, That jewel you just saw. It's mine. Then I said, You look like someone I was in love with, until hatred separated us. I asked, What's your name? and she said, "Kogone?" Then she said, "Vash, I heard from the elder. You were a bounty hunter. Is that true?" I couldn't believe it. How did she know about me? I was too shocked to speak, so I nodded.
Reclaiming my lost possessions.
We also found my swords, shotguns, climbing claws, and my mask, which are in the museum. I told her, I'm going to steal my possessions back from the museum, so don't worry about me. She wanted to come too, but I told her not to, because it would endanger her. It took me at least an hour to relocate my items, but I had to make sure to disable the alarms. That way I wouldn't have the police on my ass when I escape. I punched through the glass, grabbing my items. I realized I tripped a silent alarm, and that it would take the police 5 minutes to get here. So after I got everything I owned back, I fled to the vehicle exhibit and found my last possession, my ghost. The same one I used to break the speed limit about 600 times.
Escape.
I started it up and made sure it was working. That way I could escape easily. I waited for the police to find me. When they did, I put it in full throttle and released the brake. The next thing they saw and heard was an explosion and seeing a person with long hair riding a vehicle burst through the wall. I waited for the police to get into their squad cars and turn around and come after me. When I saw them approaching me, I turned my ghost around and shot one shot just to piss them off. When one of the cops leaned out his window holding a pistol, I turned my ghost around and sped off. 3 hours later, I managed to lose him. When I got back to Kagone's house, she screamed at me because she was watching the news and she saw my little stunt.
Being revealed to the world. Well, sort of.
Kagone woke me up with her scream. When I got to where she was, I asked her, sword ready, "Where's the demon?" She said, "I don't have a science project and it's due today." I asked, "What's your project on?" "Wolves." That sparked something in my mind. "I'll be your project." "Really?" "Yeah, because I bet they wouldn't expect a real wolf to enter the classroom with you. But one thing, don't put me into a cage." Before school started, I snuck into the air vent and was waiting for her to present her project. When it was time for her project, I bust out of the vent in my wolf form. When I did that, everyone in the room probably shit themselves from fright. After her project, everyone in the room wanted to touch me. But right when someone was going to touch me, I growled a warning, which made him pull his hand back. Some asshole touched me, and in response, I bit his hand off. I said in telepath to the guy, "I told you not to touch me, you jackass." That scared him. I kept his hand as a trophy, but I felt sorry for him. So I found his house and jumped onto the roof and scratched the window, then I hid, leaving his severed hand on the roof. When he leaned out of the window to pick it up, he saw me sitting there calm. He probably went insane. I don't blame him.
Knowing I'm not alone.
I was out on the street looking for a store when I saw 4 boys and a girl running towards me. The leader smacked right into me, and we both fell stunned for a second. Then he got up and continued running. I ran after them, and then I smelled something about the girl. She had the scent of a flower. I ran right beside them and saw the boys' true selves. The boys are wolves like me. I got in front of them and stopped them and said, "You're wolves like me." One of them said,
"Get out of our way, human."
That pissed me off, and I yelled, "I'm not human," slugging him in the face. The girl walked over to me and said, "He's telling the truth. He is a wolf like you." Then the leader said,
"Chesa, you sure?"
She nodded, and the leader went into his wolf form. He is also white like me, but he doesn't have the mark I have on my face. Then she said, "Vash, we meet at last." I said, "Chesa." The leader was thinking,
"He has a different scent from the rest of us, but he seems he might be my brother. And how does she know him?"
I learned his name from reading his mind. I said, "Kiba, is that your name?" When I said that, he looked at me. Like, "How do you know my name?" So I told him. Sume had his back turned to me. Toby was nervous. and I think he saw my sword, and Hige was excited to meet me because I'm the most dangerous wolf in the world. When I heard about Paradise, I wanted to go as well, but I had to bring my things.
The search for paradise.
I told Kagone I was going away for a long time. She said, "Sit!" I fell on my face. I told her, "Look, I'm not your pet, or your project," tearing the necklace off. But I did like the necklace. Before I left, she stopped me and gave me a necklace with a symbol on it. I put it on, and she said for the last time, "Sit!" I fell on my face. This time I laughed because she gave me a home. I made sure to have her keep my ghost safe in an underground garage. Then I left on my journey to find Paradise.
The capture.
After we set off to find Paradise, we got ambushed. Chesa and I were taken to a laboratory for study. I was fighting back, so they tranquilized me. 3 hours later, when I woke up, I was in a cage, and Chesa was in another. I told her, "We're going to Omega Sector 68903. It is a huge laboratory where it is impossible to escape from without getting killed." She looked at me in confusion, so I told her, "I'm telepathic, so that's how I knew where we were going." Some guys came in, and one took her one way, and another took me the other way. When the guy led me into a room, and he pushed me into a cage and locked it. I could sense Chesa was in a room above me. I told her telepathic, "I'm in the room right below you, so don't worry. I will tell Kiba where we are." I focused as hard as I could to reach Kiba, but I couldn't, so I used the communication satellite to amplify my signal. I heard Kiba say,
Who are you? And where are you?
"I'm at a laboratory called Omega Sector 68903. It is in the north, about 400 miles. It is a bad land, and it is heavily guarded, so be careful. Oh yeah, this is Vash."
Where's Chesa?
"She's in the same place I'm in." Then my message got cut. The scientists probably found out I used their radio as an amplifier for my message.
The escape from the hardest facility in the world.
3 days later. The scientists were conducting research on me when an alarm went off. I sensed Kiba, Toby, Sume, and Hige in the facility. I told them where I was. The scientists got scared when 4 wolves broke down the door. I jumped over the scientists and went into my wolf form, and when they saw my mark, they begged for mercy. I said, "No, there will be no mercy for killing my friends and family." And I killed all the scientists in the room. I left a message on the wall in blood that said, "Blade was here." It was in view of a security camera. I think when the guards saw that, they made a mistake. Guards used tranquilizers on me, but it had no effect. I realized I'm immune to tranquilizers from getting shot with them. Kiba found Chesa, and when I saw her, I said, "This facility is going down, so get out of here as fast as you can." When I sensed they were out of the facility, I plowed to the deepest part of the compound and powered up and aimed a blast into the ground. That was probably one of the stupidest things I've done, because I left no time for me to escape the blast. When the facility blew up, I thought Vash was dead, until I heard, "Here I come, Chesa!" And someone flew out of the explosion. It was Blade, wounded, and his clothes were in rags, but he is still alive. He said to me, "I'm alright. How's Chesa?" "She's okay, but you scared her from the thought of you dying." He walked a few feet before collapsing.
The aftermath.
He did have a hard time walking. He said, "Kiba, I'm sorry for making you worry about me." Hige said,
No problem. At least you're okay. Except for your leg.
he looked down at his leg, which is bleeding and had some bone showing. He said, "I can recover from this wound, because I've recovered from more severe injuries like having most of my flesh burned off." Chesa was with Toby, still crying. I limped over to her and said, "It's okay. I'm fine." When she saw me leaning on Kiba, she hugged me. Then she saw my injury and began to heal it. I let her,
because the way she heals someone is more soothing than being cooped up in a hospital. I thought of how that, now that I destroyed the laboratory, it would tell humanity not to capture and study me, because all the labs I've been in have been destroyed. But Kiba, Cheza, Sume, Hige, and Toby were exhausted from running, so I used the transfer system that I gained from helping Zero fight against Copy X3. Zero also gave me a copy of his sword and pistol, which I like. Using my mask's radio, I told the resistance base I was bringing some friends to get some rest. I told Kiba and Cheza to hold on to me, and I got transferred to the base. I did that twice.
A new threat. Copy X4.
Toby was amazed at how big the base was. I went to the control center and I saw my old friend, Zero. I asked, "Where's your old armor?" He gave me a look. Then I remembered. "Oh yeah, you gave it to me as a thank you gift. I need repairs for the armor and some food." Kibe and Cheza were hanging out in the control center, and then Seal told me about a new cyber elf they found. When I saw it, the center head was the same as someone I know. I said, "Ellipso." When I said that, Seal was surprised at what I just said. Then I continued, "I haven't seen you in years. How's it going?" He said,
I had some bad news. Another X was created.
I smiled my fun time smile. Zero was with me. We both knew what we would have to do. Find and kill Copy X. Then Cyber Elf X appeared and said,
"You'll both have to be careful. This copy of me is far stronger than the last two."
X gave us the coordinates to Copy X's hideout. Zero was going to transfer me over there, but I told him, "We can't, because I sense an energy field around it, so we have to take a vehicle." I remembered I still have a good friendship with Sid. I called Sid and I told him, "I need a ride now." I told the command center and they the airship to the roof.
A new way how to wake people up.
Zero and I both got into the airship. Titus, Riku, Lulu, Waka, Kamarhi, Pain, Yuna, and Aruran were on it. 2 hours later, we made it to the Copy X's base. Seal warned us that it has anti-air defenses. I told Zero, "I will disable the turrets." I sent our theme song to Assault, and then I told Sid, "When it comes on, dive bomb and let us grind down that wire." When it came on, Sid did what I told him. The Reuploids were shooting at us, but that didn't stop us. We destroyed the defenses, and those Reuploids. Yuna was in her gunner clothing, and she fired. Pain was in her classic warrior clothing, and Rika was in her thief clothing, and they did their YRP thing. And then I used my psychosphere, and when it was done changing my clothing, I looked like a psychopath, because I had a leather jacket, jeans, a white shirt, hockey mask, and a huge knife. When Titus saw my clothes, he began to back away slowly.
The final battle against Copy X4 and repaying the bloodshed 24 years ago.
I told Sid to wait until both Zero and I come out of the base. It took Zero and I about 5 minutes to reach Copy X. When we reached him, I saw the person who I was hunting. Keikanu's brother, the same motherfucker who killed my friends 24 years ago. I told Zero, "Go after Copy X. I will deal with this son of a bitch." He nodded and chased Copy X, leaving Keikanu's brother alone with me. I went into my mega form, and he transformed into his demon form.
Payback is a bitch.
We both started fighting. We totaled the room, and I got hit through the roof to where Zero and Copy X are fighting. It took Zero about an hour to kill Copy X, but I still had to kill Keikanu's brother. The fight lasted for about 2 hours, until I pulled the Z-Saber out and slashed him. When it cut him apart, his part of his body disintegrated. When that happened, I realized only the Z-Saber could kill him, so I activated my armor, which made me look like Zero, but with a mark on his face. When I activated my armor, Zero and I were pulled towards each other, and then we fused into someone who you don't want to piss off. Zero and I became the legendary Blade Zero. I had golden armor with black boots, and my eyes were white, and my hair was golden blue. When this happened, I was in my mega form. The rage from my friends' deaths caused my power to increase dramatically. But Copy X wasn't dead yet. When he took his one shot at us, it stopped in midair and disappeared. He panicked from what just happened. He powered up and released his strongest blast at us. It hit our aura and disappeared. I said, "You're pathetic." Raising my hand up to his direction, "Die!" Then I released the blast, which decimated the base.
I stand corrected by payback is a bitch.
After the blast subsided, there was someone in the crater with an aura around him. It was Copy X4, and he was exhausted from trying to keep his shield up. I didn't care, because I wanted to see how long he could last against me. And so far, he is very close to getting killed. I said, "You're tired already? You're pathetic." He fired another blast at me. I was growing bored from his attempts to hurt me, so I got behind him and grabbed his head, held him up, and blew a hole through him, killing him instantly.
Erasing Keikanu's gene pool.
After the death of Copy X4, a portal opened and more demons came out. And when they saw Keikanu's brother dead, they started crying and saying,
"Kisongo, my son, who did this to you?"
Keithongo said,
It was him.
pointing in my direction. They looked at me, and I said sarcastically, "I'm sorry for killing your son. How can I make it up to you for his death?" They all rushed at me. They fucked up big time, because I had my hand on Tetsaiga. By the time they realized I had a sword on me, I was already behind them, Tetsaiga drawn. I slashed two of them in half. Then the two I slashed in half regenerated. I realized I can't use one sword on all of them. Then Sora appeared and struck one of them. I yelled, "Sora! Perfect timing!" He nodded, and I drew my Keyblade out, and Sora and I fused once again, holding the Omega weapon. Keikanu's family backed away, scared from the sight of me. I was also fused with Zero, which makes me Blade Zero Matrix. Yuna, Riku, Pain, Tidus, Waka, Aruran, Lulu, and Kimari were on the airship when I destroyed the base. The airship was high enough to avoid the blast. I think Sid used a scout droid to see what was going on. 2 hours later, I managed to kill the rest of Keikanu's family. I knew if I didn't destroy their bodies, they could regenerate. After I did that, I flew up to the airship and boarded it. When I entered the bridge, everyone gathered around me in amazement. Then my fusion wore off, and Sora, Zero, and I split back to our normal selves. The Al-Bed on the ship were asking questions to me in Al-Bed. I understood them because I know the language very well.
Sin. Vagnagon. Crap.
I was relaxing in the bedroom when an alarm went off.
Sid said, "Report to the bridge ASAP."
When I got there, Sid showed me something that I hated on the computer screen. If you guessed Keikanu, you're either stupid or retarded. It was Sin and Vagnagon. I screamed, "WTF! Sin and Vagnagon alive? That's impossible! They both got destroyed!" Then Sid said,
"They were, until now."
"That's it! They're both going to fucking die!" I turned around and walking out the door when Tita stopped me and said,
"You're not going to kill them both alone. And I've got to tell you something. Sin is my old man."
I said, "You mean Sin is checked? Well, that means killing Sin will be a lot more fun." Sid said,
"Now we have to locate him, which will be a problem."
I said, "I think I know how to find Sin." Sora and Zero looked at me confused. I said, "Sin will always come back for his spawn. Right, Waka?
which means we will have to find one and torture it until Sin comes. Sora didn't like my brutal ways at all, so I told him my plan. 2 hours later, we were spread around the world, looking for the Sin spawn we need to find Sin. We found at least 3 of them, and we captured them, and went to Iraq. I entered the Army's HQ, and they said,
"You're restricted from being here."
I said, "Look, I'm on a mission to stop the world from being destroyed by 2 creatures." After I told the Army my mission, they agreed to help. I really didn't give a fuck about what happens to Iraq. 3 hours later, the Army was supposed to do the torturing, and Sora, Tidus, Waka, Aruran, Yuna, Riku, Zero, Pain, Lulu, Kimari, and myself kept an eye out for Sin and Vagnagun. When Sin appeared, I said calmly, "Let's get to work." We boarded the airship, and I used my power to blow a hole in Sin, but I didn't count on Vagnagun doing something I hated. It merged with Sin, making it stronger.
The true power of Blade Zero.
Sora Zero and I fused again, but I somehow couldn't reach my full power. So I told Sid, "Head to the Arctic, because there are too many people around and it will follow us." He nodded and set the airship's engine to full power. I stood up on the deck shooting blasts at it. When we got to the Arctic, I told Sid to land the airship in the extinct volcano, and Sid sent a Machina scout to watch me fight Vagnasin. I used the Super Ice Emeralds, went Super Saiyan Stage 5, and activated my armor. I didn't realize this until Vagnasin shot a blast at me, and it hit me, but I didn't feel any pain. When I opened my eyes, the blast was stuck. I was wondering what was happening until I looked at my reflection in the ice, and I saw that I was wearing the Kanohivahi, the Mask of Time. Then something else happened. Some strange sand surrounded me and fused with the mask. Vagnasin shot another blast at me, and I tried to block it, but got my robotic arm blown off, and before I got very pissed off, time stopped and began to rewind until my arm was attached back on my body. Then I realized I reversed time by using that mysterious sand that surrounded me. I thought, I'm very pissed off and confused. Someone approached me and said,
"That sand that surrounded you was the sands of time."
I asked, "Who are you?" He said,
"I'm a prince of Babylon."
I asked, "A prince? Then what the fuck are you doing here?" He said,
"I have to warn you. The Time Guardian will come after you."
I said, "I don't really give a shit about him. Right now I have to save the world again." He asked,
"Can I help take him down?"
I said, "You can't hurt it because it is a fusion of one creature and one machine called Vagnasin." He asked,
"Where is it?"
I said nothing more, but just pointed at it. Right when he saw it, he lost his nerve to fight it. Then these strange creatures that appeared and were running at us. I recognized them as Sin Scales. He asked me, "What are those things?" I told him, "Those are skin scales. They come from Vagnasin's skin." He asked,
"Skin?"
I said, "Yeah, and don't get too close to Vagnasin because of its toxins." He said nothing. Then I said, "The Sin Scales are easy to kill, but they attack in swarms." He pulled a sword out and began killing the Sin Scales with ease, and I focused on Vagnasin. I united all my sides again, and pulled Tetsume out, and used the Wind Scar technique, which hurt it a little. Then I remembered that I can use the icy climate to my advantage, and I did use the ice to increase my power for the ultimate Wind Scar technique, but I actually skipped the ultimate form and accidentally went Omega. Then I did use the Wind Scar. It destroyed one of its arms. Then in response to it, it dove beneath the ocean. I dove in and followed it until it went through a portal. I have a real bad feeling about what's going to happen.
And now I'm continuing the downward spiral into horror with Christian Humber Reloaded Part 5, The Return to Spira.
Zanarkand, 1002 years ago.
Then I went through the portal, and I found out I was falling above a city that was all lit up. Then I remembered what Tidus told me about Zanarkand. I realized that I was going to land at Xanarkin Stadium in the middle of a blitzball game. Everyone in the stadium looked up and saw me land in the sphere pool. The announcer said,
"This is truly amazing! Someone fell out of the sky and is in the middle of the field!"
I looked around, and I saw Titus staring at me. I told him telepath, "Titus, don't be afraid of me." He looked confused when I said that. I said, "I didn't expect to land here, so after I exit the pool, you can continue your game." He nodded, and I did watch, until he leaped out of the sphere pool to take a shot, but a blast from the other side of the city destroyed some buildings, and I did try to find Titus, but there were too many people in the way. 2 hours later, I found him again, but this time he was with Aruron. I drew my sword, a Buster sword, and Aruron said,
"I hope you know how to use it."
Titus did focus until he was holding it in one hand. I said to myself, "Sin scales." Aruron and Titus were doing okay until they got surrounded. I said, "You're not alone." They both turned around and saw me holding my sword. We killed the ugly assholes. We reached where the attack came from, Sin. When my powers returned, I flew straight up and went fast enough to go forward in time. I went back to Spira in the present and found who I was hunting. Vagnusin. This time he was feeding on the souls in the far plane. I used my radio to contact Sid, and I did. I told him, Vagnusin is in the far plane, feeding. Then I saw something on Vagnusin. I took my sniper rifle out and used the scope to get a closer look.
Shujan's return.
When I did find out what it was, I recognized who was piloting Vagnusin. It was someone I really hold a fucking grudge against. It was Shujan, the same asshole who tried to destroy Spira. I told Yuna, Shujan is back and is trying to destroy Spira. Take the same route you took to get here. Roger that, Blade. We're on our way. 1 hour later, she brought everyone down into the fireplane. When I saw her, I showed her Vagnusin's pilot. Sora and Zero were there too. Sora wanted to see Shujan's ugly face, and I did show him. I told Sora, now you use the Thundega 437 Hellfragger rocket launcher. When I said that, he was doing his psycho smile, which he learned from me. He pulled out his Thundega 437 Hellfragger rocket launcher and set the rockets to guide and opened fired. Shujan had no idea what was happening until Yuna appeared in the songstress dress sphere. Shujan's face went from pissed off to shame, and then someone else appeared and said, Shujan, stop! You don't have to do this! When I turned around, a woman wearing the same thing Yuna is. I recognized her from Yuna's 1,000 words, Len, the one who Shujan is in love with.
Calming Shujan's tainted heart.
I said, I know you two are in love with each other, Shujan. Trying to destroy Spira for revenge? What the fuck were you thinking? He said, Vagnusin is all I need to get revenge. I, in frustration, slugged him square in the face and yelled, I could get you two married, but your heart is tainted with darkness, so now you can't go into a temple without getting baptized. He looked ashamed, and he said, I'm sorry for all the damage I've done. Len, do you forgive me? She nodded, and I said, now that you two are happy again, what are we going to do with Vagnusin? He asked, Vagnusin? I sighed and told Len and Shujan about Vagnusin. 5 minutes later, I told them about Vagnusin, and they understood what they had to do. Repair all the faith chambers in all the temples. But right when Shujan and Len were leaving the Farplane's barrier prevented them from leaving the Farplane and Guadalsalam. So I had told Yuna to go get a priest from one of the temples and tell him where the wedding will be located. I decided to stay with them until Yuna got back. 2 hours later, she came back and brought a priest into the Farplane.
The wedding and Keikanu returns.
You know how a wedding goes. But this wedding was more interesting than any other wedding, because I've never seen two unsent people get married before. I pretty much fell asleep during it. The thing that woke me up was the sound of a huge machine moving, and I looked over where the noise was coming from. I laughed, because Magnuson was coming, looking beautiful. Then a familiar voice spoke.
"Where's the beer?"
I turned around and laughed, because Jack got too drunk and acted like a complete asshole, so I had to drag him out in the middle of the aisle and say, "You can continue." Then an explosion. I knew the scent real well. It was Kekanu. I sighed and started fighting. Tita said, "Don't mind them, they're just settling a score." I finally killed him and erased his soul from the world, and made sure Kekanu and his family won't ever come back. I didn't tell you, I have an obsession with destruction, which means if a Biffy blows up, it's probably me entertaining myself. I've made explosives before for everyday use. I will level city blocks just for the thrill. I thought of destroying Bevelle as revenge for putting me into a prison. While in the far plane, I met Seymour Guado. I took him out of the far plane and killed him. Yuna wanted to send him back to the far plane, but I told her not to. Of course, I castrated him for being an asshole to Yuna. I didn't tell New Yevon about castrating Seymour, but they found him upside down, heart ripped out, eyes ripped out, castrated, tongue cut out, gutless, and wrapped in barbed wire. The look on New Yevon's face was classic when they saw his body, still wet with blood, hanging in the council chamber. I also met Yuna Leska. I pretty much did the same thing I did to Seymour, but instead of hanging her upside down, I left her lying on Bevelle's temple's doorstep. Yeah, I'm that ruthless.
The truth about myself.
Every time I enter the far plane, I get a flashback showing someone carrying a white wolf and saying something that I can't understand. So in order to help me find out who was carrying that baby white wolf, I get a memory sphere, and I recorded it onto the sphere and took it to the elder and showed him. He said,
"I knew you would come to me with a sphere holding strange memory."
I asked, "What does that memory mean to me?" He said,
"You were not born in the Arctic, but in the far plane."
I screamed, "I was born in the far plane and I didn't know about it?" He said,
"The person that was carrying you is someone you know very well."
After he said that, I went through my mental log of all my friends, and I shrugged. He said,
"The people who are carrying you are Yuna and Titus. They were sent to protect you from Seymour Guado by your father. They brought you to the Arctic for your safety."
I said, "I killed Seymour with my own fucking hands." He said,
"No, he is still alive."
I asked, "How am I going to kill him? He was killed by Titus, Yuna's guardians, and myself?" He said,
"You must use your hidden power to kill him for good."
I asked, "How am I going to awaken this hidden power?" He said,
"Stay in the far plane and do some training until you're ready." My true power awakened and reunited with my father at last.
I did train in the far plane until my corrupted side appeared. I said, "The final battle against you." It smirked and began to summon something. I attacked head on, and whatever it summoned hit me to the ground. When I saw what hit me against the ground, I was in shock, because the summoned beast was actually all the Aeons fused into a huge beast, and among the Aeons were no other than my father. I said, "You're my father! Dad, what happened to you?" Before he could answer me, my corrupted self merged with it and attacked me. I tried to hold it off without hurting it, but I kept getting knocked around by it, until all my friends appeared and said, "Aim for the Aeons!" I said, "I will aim for my corrupted self." They nodded, and I yelled, "Dad, I won't lose you again!" drawing Atonement and Tetsume. And when I had both Atonement and Tetsume out, They fused into a sword I've never seen before. Sid and the Elder were watching me fight, and the Elder said,
"Your true power is awakening."
Then I felt a little strange. Then a surge of energy burst from my body, and before I knew it, ice formed. I went out to my reflection, and I saw that I had golden, white, blue, silver hair. My eyes were silver, and I looked more dangerous than I was when I had all my sides united. Then all my sides united, and I became even stronger. When it attacked me again, I blocked its attack with one finger. The Elder was scared, because I reached my true power, and ascended past it. I yelled, "This is it, you ugly son of a bitch! Let my father go!" I aimed for my corrupted self, and released a blast that would destroy the universe twice when it hit him. He absorbed the blast, and shot it right back at me, tainted. I dodged the blast by just a nanometer. The Elder yelled at me, "Use your goddamn sword!" I heard him, and I nodded, and pulled out my new sword, and charged at him.
The sacred technique.
It formed a sword, and I knew the sword very well from all the goddamn fights I had with it, the Slayer of Souls. But this sword was different. During the fight, it used all the Aeon's powers. When I got hit by the Slayer of Souls, something awakened in me, and in response I said, "Kamehameha!" blasting him with a huge beam. When that happened, I looked at the scout droid, and the Elder was trembling really badly. It struck at me again, and I did the same thing. I asked the Elder, "What did I just do?" He said,
"You have learned the sacred technique. The Kamehameha."
I said, "Cool!" I turned towards my opponent and said while focusing my power, "Kamehameha!" It attacked, and I finished. Ha! Blasting it with all my energy. When the beam hit him, it vaporized most of his body. And then it regenerated and used my new technique against me. And I dodged the beam and said to myself, "God damn it, I forgot it can learn attacks from its opponent. So I have to beat it by using all my power even if it kills me." I powered up and I said to it, "I'm just getting started." The Elder started screaming at me, but I ignored him. It used my new attack, but I found out he is vulnerable to attack on the back. I got behind him and did a point-blank range angel arm attack, which caught him by surprise.
The ultimate transformation.
After I did that, I let him regenerate and enrage. He used my new attack again, and I used the Kamehameha against him. Both of our beams collided, and Sora cut my father free from its body and got him to safety. He told me he freed my father, and that I can become reckless. It was intense, because both it and I were using all our energy to try and push the opponent's beam towards him. Then my father woke up, and then said to me, "You're stronger than it, and I know it." I yelled back at him, "I've used up almost of my energy. How can I continue to hold him off?" He walked right beside me, and used his power to give me a boost of energy. But after he did that, my corrupted self shot a blast, and killed my father. Right when that happened, I started crying. Then an android walked up to me, and said,
"I know that you lost your father. You want to avenge his death. But in order to do that, release your feelings."
Then my corrupted self destroyed the android, and I yelled, "Android 16! Then I said, "You love life. You would give anything for it. And I just let you die. And I won't watch this anymore!" After I said that, I lost it. I jumped out of the way of its beam, and I did release my anger, and I began to transform. Sora and Zero began to be pulled towards me, and I fused with them. Then Kosanto appeared and fused with me, as well as Kaze. When the bright lights subsided, there was someone standing here, and he was wearing tattered chain pants, a torn black t-shirt, no shoes, a torn leather jacket, one ear pierced, and he had a spiked necklace on. He had long gold, blue, silver, white hair, no pupils, his mark on his face, and a lot of electricity crackling around him. When I looked at Chesa, she was scared at Vash's new look. I told her, Jesus, he transformed by using his anger and love for his father and Android 16. He may look evil, but I know he is pissed at his corrupted self for both their deaths. She looked up at me, and she said, "Is he really that angry at his own shadow?" I nodded, and then she looked at the screen again and continued watching Vash's fight. Sume was nervous, and he walked out of the command center. Toby was scared at Vash's new appearance. He gave his back up against the wall, shivering.
The ultimate Kamehameha battle and Corrupted Blade's defeat.
After I transformed, I looked at my corrupted self and saw he didn't expect me to transform into a very pissed-off Super Saiyan Ortega Wolf Demon Dragon who is in his extreme Super Saiyan form, on the edge of tearing you to pieces at any sign of movement. He used my new attack against me, and I used mine. I overpowered him easily and destroyed him. I destroyed him. That way he won't come back.
The aftermath.
When I emerged from the far plane in my new form, everyone gathered around me and was asking way too many questions. After a few minutes, I returned to normal. I tried to go into my new form, but I couldn't. I asked the Elder why I couldn't go back into that form, and he told me that I would have to stay in the far plane in order to use my new form outside the far plane. I trained in the far plane until I got the hang of transforming. I still visit Season Bringer. I told him everything that I learned from the Elder. He was quite shocked when I told him that. I took him to the far plane and introduced him to my father. Season Bringer was happy to meet my father and my brother. He asked me,
"Can you please show me your true power?"
I asked, "Why do you want to see my true power?" He responded,
"I want to spar with you."
I said, "Alright, but if I accidentally kill you, it's not my fault."
Corrupted Blade's return, and the truth about Season Bringer.
Season Bringer and I did some stretches, then we started sparring. The truth is, I was scared to transform. He saw it in my eyes, and he told me,
"I know you're scared to transform, but trust me because I know what I'm doing."
I nodded and started to transform into a Super Saiyan when Corrupted Blade appeared and possessed Season Bringer. I yelled, "Season Bringer!" He attacked me, and I had to free Season Bringer from my corrupted self without hurting him. I realized Corrupted Blade's original body was destroyed, and the only way it could remain in my world is by stealing someone else's body. I hated him after I found that out. I was really getting sick and tired of Corrupted Blade. I transformed and used Claw of Exorcism and freed Season Bringer from him, and used Claw of Oblivion, which destroyed him and erased him from the universe. Season Bringer thanked me, and he said he saw my true power and my new form. He saw why I didn't want to transform. It was because I barely have control of my new form. After I went back to normal, he told me something that surprised me. He said,
"Blade, I have something to tell you."
I said, "What's up?" Then he said,
"Blade, I'm your older brother."
I screamed, "My older brother? How can he be my brother when we were born in different families?" He said,
"I was born 2 years before you were born. I was born with power over the seasons."
I asked, "How could you transform into a Super Saiyan when you're a pure dragon?" He said,
"I also have Saiyan blood flowing from my veins like you do."
I thought to myself, I can't believe it. A dragon? My brother? What the fuck is going on? I started crying, then said, "You're lying. I saw my family die. I saw them die, and I couldn't stop the hunters from killing them. I wish I could go back in time and prevent them from dying." Season Bringer said,
"You can."
I looked at him, and he repeated,
"You can save them, but you will alter the present."
I thought about that for a moment, and then I said, "I will take that risk in order to save my family." He shook his head, and I said, "I will get their DNA and have them cloned. Then I will stop time and replace them with the clones and bring my family back to the present." And I did go back in time got their DNA samples, got them cloned, then I brought the clones with me into the past. Then I waited until the hunters appeared, and I froze time, and replaced my real family with the clones.
Reunited with my family.
I brought them to the present, and said to Seasonbringer, I told you I could do it in no damage to the fabric of time. He nodded, and when my parents regained their senses, they panicked. I told them, it's okay, you're safe now. They looked at me in confusion, so I told them the truth about myself, and showed them my birthmark. My mom said, Kibasu, look at you, you're all grown up. I told them, my real name is Kibasu, but I prefer to be called Blade. She said, that name is too violent for a sweetie like you. I said, watch The Most Wanted Criminals on TV. You might see me listed on it. They did watch it, and saw my name and what crimes I've done. That surprised him. I told him how I'm one of the world's most wanted. I told them why the police gave up on hunting me. They stopped hunting me because I was too much of a threat to them by personally destroying police stations, blowing up army bases, breaking the speed limit, leveling cities, and many more. When I told them that, they were shaking their heads in disbelief that I did all those crimes. I told my mom about the far plane and my corrupted self.
Living with my family again.
Later that day, I asked Yuna to sing Bring Me to Life for my parents, and she agreed. While she was getting ready, I was doing the same. That night, she was on the deck of the airship, and she started singing it, and I came out and was playing the electric guitar. Also, I had a microphone, and I did the male voice in the song. Titus was playing an electric guitar, and Waka was playing the drums, and Riku played the keyboard. On the screen behind us, it was showing something jawsome. Titus and I sung Runaway. He was wearing his gothic clothing, and he had a sword on him. I looked over at Chesa while she was watching the concert. She looked confused by the way Blade was dressed. After the song, I put on one recording of Avenged Sevenfold's concert. They played Unholy Confessions, just to pretty much make a mash pit. But I got my parents out of there before the song started.
The shadow returns.
When I was looking at the stars to read the prophecies of the world, I saw a legend in the stars that said, the darkness that was banished by light will return and try to plunge the world into shadow. Thus the chosen one will face the shadow again and banish it again. After I read that, I was confused, because Sora and I have defeated the darkness together. Then I got a transmission from Sora. He said, I have bad news. I asked, what's the bad news? He said, the Heartless have returned and are trying to plunge all the worlds into the shadows. I said, damn it, how stubborn are these pieces of shit? They got their asses kicked and they come back for more. He said nothing, and I said, I'll be right there. I told my parents about my mission, and they begged me not to go, but I told them, I'll be okay, so you don't have to worry about me. I gave them a scout droid to watch me fight the Heartless. When I got there, Sora had his hands full, and I put on Linkin Park, Runaway. When it came on, I pulled Tetsumei out, and used the Wind Scar against the Heartless. It did take a lot of them, but more came, and I said, I will regret this later, but I will take the risk. Sora asked me, the risk? I said, I'm going to become a demon. He screamed, what are you, nuts? I said, I know what I'm doing. And I changed the song to Evanescence, Lies. And right when it came on, I held Tetsumei out to the side and dropped it. I told Sora, run, because when I do transform, I will kill everything I see. He nodded, picked up Tetsumei, and ran.
Enter the demon side again.
I let a Heartless hit me down. They began to slash, claw, and bite me until I was near death. Then I transformed. When Blade transformed, his eyes were blood red, claws extended, fangs became longer, and he had marks on the side of his face. He then began the slaughter of the Heartless. It was scary, because he took pleasure in killing everyone that he sees. It took him 2 hours to kill all of them. After he killed all of them, he was gloating over how he killed them easily. Then I remembered he told me that he's wearing the necklace Kagone gave him. I told her and Sid to put the speaker on for the droid, and she yelled, "Sit, boy!" He fell on his face and returned to normal. I gave Tetsume back to him. Aboard the airship, we watched him transform and brutally kill the Heartless.
The true destruction of chaos.
I knew about the risk and I took it to save Sora, but my soul became more tainted from that transformation. I got a transmission from Seasonbringer, and he said,
"The Eye of Terror is back."
I said, "Finally! I can use my true power, and all my sides united, and vaporize the ugly motherfucker once again, but this time, I'm going to use all my power!" Sora looked at me scared. I asked him, "You wanna tag along?" He said, "Yeah!" I opened my portal to the Eye of Terror's location. I gave Sora a mask, and he saw it. The Eye of Terror, the home of my ultimate enemy, Chaos. Zero was with me as well. I yelled, "I'm back!" Nothing happened, and I used my telekinesis to throw an asteroid into the eye. After I did that, corrupted space marines, demons, and Chaos ships came out of it, and I yelled, "Remember me!" Most of Chaos didn't, but the Dark Gods did remember me. The Dark Gods sent all their minions at Sora, Zero, and myself. I pulled Tetsume out, Sora pulled out his Keyblade, and Zero pulled out his Z-Saber. And we began to slash Chaos's forces to bits. The Dark Gods pulled their weapons out and charged at us. It was hard to hold their forces back and fight them as well. I got hit a couple of times, but I didn't care because I was too focused on fighting the Dark God who I was enslaved to. I put on Avenged Sevenfold's Unholy Confessions, and when it came on, I began to transform into my new form. But this time, my power was at least 900 times stronger than it was in the far plane. The Elder yelled into the radio, "No, don't transform! You have no control over that power!" I said calmly, "Don't have a heart attack, old man. I know what I'm doing." When Blade said that, the Elder was shocked to hear that from him. I asked the Elder, "What happened to him?" The Elder told me, He has no personality when he's in that form." I yelled to him, "God damn it, Blade! Obey the Elder because he has been around longer than you have." He said, "Fuck off!" I was pissed off at him, but I kept my cool. When he turned his back on me, I realized I have no kindness in his form, so I said to the radio, "I'm sorry for being an asshole to you." He turned around and said, "Thanks." I gave him a thumbs up and went back to my fight with Chaos. I yelled, "This is it, Chaos! Your death is at hand! Now die, you goddamn motherfuckers, pieces of shit, and go to hell, you ugly son of a bitch!" And I focused all my energy into my hands, and I used the Spirit Bomb, and threw it into the Eye of Terror's heart, and Zero used its charged buster to destroy the bomb.
The Aftermath and Blade's Recovery.
After the Spirit Bomb detonated, I had to be taken to the far plane to recover, by using the far plane's energy. We laid Blade next to a pool of water, and helped him drink from it. He told us, "Go, take care of the stragglers of Chaos." I said, "I won't leave you to die here." He said, "I won't, because I have my brother and father to help keep me company, while you kill the rest of Chaos." When Sora emerged from the far plane, he was shaking his head. Everyone started crying for Blade. Then he said,
Blade won't be able to fight for a couple of months. He's resting in the far plane, and he told me to tell you not to visit him, because he needs to be with his family in the far plane.
I told Yuna to stay with him, and help him drink far plane water, which has incredible healing properties. Chesa wanted to see him, but I stopped her and said, "He's in good hands, but I'll let you go see him." And I let her pass. And then millions of people wanted to see him, so they tried to get through, but I had trouble holding them back, so Lulu helped, by casting Fire-Rega, which helped hold them back. I yelled to Riku, "Use the songstress dress sphere and sing them something," and she did. Deep in the far plane, I still couldn't move because of my injuries. Chesa appeared, and helped me eat some soup. Above ground, the people still wanted to see Blade, so I asked Sid if he could have a scout droid keeping an eye on him, and he did send the droid down there, and it did watch them. I put on a monitor to have the people see how he was doing in recovery. Jesus Christ, some of the guys are fucking perverts who are trying to take a look at my panties. So I drew my sword and cut a pervert's hand off for squeezing my ass. Rika was also having the same problem as me. Waka came up to me and said,
"Geez, Ben, to the guys here, you're attractive to them."
I said, they touch me and they will get hurt. I let Titus through because he's a good friend of Blade. Payne and Riku were still getting harassed, so I cast Thundega, and it scared the perverts, and she slashed one of them. I let Waka and Lulu through to have some time alone to care for their son, who's extremely adorable. Back in the far plane, a Moogle appeared and brought some medicine to help me recover. I knew the Moogle, whose name is Kupo. I met him when I was in Traverse Town. Well, more like saved him from the Heartless, and in return, he gave me all the keychains for my Keyblade, except one, the ultimate weapon keychain. So in order to get the ultimate weapon, I have to gather the supplies for it. But since I'm hurt real badly, I can't. I asked Titus to find the resources for it, but Kupo said, "You don't have to go look for the supplies." I asked, "Why? The resources are all over the world." And then he said, "They're all located in here." Then I asked Titus to search the far plane with Kupo for the supplies. 2 hours later, they found all the resources for the last keychain. Kupo said he would go and synthesize the items to make it. And when he returned and gave it to me, I pulled out my Keyblade and attached it right before my eyes. The Keyblade began to glow and change shape. When the bright light dimmed, I was holding the strongest Keyblade in the world.
The Omega Weapon.
I asked Kupo if he would fuse all the keychains into one. He did do it, and he told me, "It's very unstable, so be careful when using it." I said, "I will." I asked Sora to come and cast Kurego on me, and when he did, most of my wounds healed quickly, so I got up and began to leave the far plane. Above ground, when Blade emerged, everyone began to rush him. I couldn't stop him. And then Blade held his Keyblade above his head and said, "The power is incredible, so I will have to be careful." Then Sora told me the rich snob's plans, and I said, "Let's go and crash that party by sneaking in and looking like you're enjoying the party until I give you the signal." They nodded, and we got ready for the party.
The surprise!
2 hours later, we arrived at the party and got into our positions waiting for the opportunity to crash it. Blake took care of the security. Toby took the role in disabling the power. Hige was lookout, Sume waited on the stairs, Kiba waited on a chandelier, and I acted as the butler. Blade entered through an open window and used his speed to get onto a chandelier and said to Toby, "Cut the power!" And he did. When the lights went out for a minute, I jumped down from my hiding spot, and when the lights came on, I was wearing sunglasses, black trench coat, and I was holding a minigun in each hand, and said sarcastically, "Where's the party?" The snobs yelled out, "Gods! Kill them!" I opened fire, destroying all the priceless articles and killing hundreds of guards, when I yelled on my radio, "Now!" Then the rest of my team appeared and began slaughtering the guards. 5 minutes later, the mansion is in ruins, and the floor is stained with blood. I said, I had a fun time, so see ya, and left with my team. That was probably the best part of the crash, because my team and I caused $1 trillion worth of damage, or more.
The transformation into a dragon?
The amount of casualties the snobs had was in the thousands. When I was walking out, I grabbed a beer, but I didn't expect what would happen to me when I drank the beer. I felt a little strange, but I ignored it until I felt pain shoot through my body, and I screamed out in pain. Sora, Sume, Kiba, Hige, and Toby surrounded me asking questions. I finally managed to yell, "Get away from me!" They kept asking questions, and I yelled, "Get the fuck away from me!" And my shirt began to tear, and wings shot out of my back, and they ran. When my transformation was done, I asked, "What happened?" Sora said, "Look in a mirror." When I did, I screamed and fell over backwards. I could not believe what just happened to me. I became a dragon who was pure black. I knew some dragon hunters, but I had to hide until I could become normal again. I found a place to stay. It was a barn. I hid in the loft and waited.
The discovery.
Later that night, I was meditating when a kid entered the barn and began to climb the ladder to the loft. I quickly lied down and kept my eye on the ladder. When the kid got up into the loft, I held my breath, and the kid took one look at me and began to scream when I grabbed him with my tail and told him telepathic,
Be quiet. I don't want to get caught and killed by hunters.
He nodded, and I said,
Look, kid, I need to stay hidden until I can control this body. And don't tell anyone. If you do, I will have to kill you and your family. Got it?
Then my stomach growled. I then said,
Return here with food every night, because if you don't, your entire family will die.
He nodded. He did bring me food and kept me company for a while, until his father got suspicious and came out to see what was going on in their barn. Hige alarmed my team, and I told Hige to keep them distracted until I was hidden.
Hey, it's Normalman, and I never thought this day would come, but here's the 6th and final part of Christian Humber Reloaded.
Return to my original self again.
After I entered the fire plane, I stayed there for a couple of years, meditating and seeing my family. Seasonbringer told me I had to trust my draconic instincts, and I did with difficulty. Then my body returned to normal, and when I saw Sora, he hugged me and asked,
How did you return to normal?
I told him I had to trust the inner dragon. I returned to the rich snob's mansion and busted down the doors after I went into my dragon form and yelled,
Now that I got your attention, it ends now.
Then I went Super Saiyan and said in a deep threatening voice,
I will rip out your hearts, eat them, and then crop out your souls.
They will all taste oblivion, which tastes just like Red Bull, which is disgusting.
Then they sent guards on me, and I used my energy to throw them aside. I went back to my original form.
Sided with Alucard.
Before I knew it, something bit me, and I blacked out. When I woke up, I was in a bed with an IV in my arm, putting blood back into my body. I asked, Where am I? A girl said,
You're in the Helsing Organization mansion.
Then I asked, What bit me? She responded,
It was my master.
Your master?
Yes, my master is Alucard.
Right when I heard that, I froze and said, Alucard? I've heard about him. Then Alucard appeared and said,
Your training will begin shortly.
I asked, Training? Don't you know who I am? I'm the god of destruction. Then after I entered the training facility, I began my Helsing training. 10 hours later, I finished my training and asked Alucard, I want to learn how to do control restriction level 1. Alucard did teach me the control restriction technique. I set my theme song to Blow Me Away, and I helped Alucard kill ghouls, which was fun. I mainly used my claws and my swords, and Alucard gave me a sweet gun, the double-barreled Helix Magnum, which is one of the strongest guns in the world. Let's just say it can go through 14 solid concrete buildings with one shot. I showed Alucard my samurai. He wasn't impressed until I shot it. He told me it was going to be useful for killing ghouls. Later that night, I searched for something that could be used to make a UV weapon that could slice a vampire like butter, and I finally found all the parts to make it, although it took me a couple of nights to make it. Alucard said,
That won't work.
I decided to test it against a host vampire. It worked. It turned the vampire to ash. Then I said to Alucard, You said it wouldn't work, but I did. I decided to make one of my main weapons for hunting vampires. I also made a Hell Angel Chaotic 100 cal cannon with liquid nitrogen and UV slugs. I made this kind of gun to send everything in a 2-mile-long radius to hell. I made a full auto silver stake gun, which can shoot a stake 3 miles in a second. I also had to pick up all my guns, ammo from Kagone, and I told her, I'm with Helsing now, helping out by killing ghouls, which are zombies. She then gave me a crystal that will prevent me from going demon. I took it anyways, but I wanted to go demon when I'm in real trouble.
The true race against time again, and Blade's death.
I followed Alucard to a portal. I knew the dark portal very well. It was a chaos portal. I said to Alucard, I will fight alone this time, because Chaos and I have a score to settle, and I'm going to seal the Eye of Terror for good. Alucard said,
Don't get yourself killed.
I said, no problem. If they're vampires, I'm well equipped to send them to hell. Little did I know, the fight was going to be harder than I expect. After I entered the portal, it closed. I set my theme song to Du Hast. Then I sat down and pulled Tetsume out and waited for the song to begin. When it did, I jumped onto my feet and began to slaughter them. Then I heard a gunshot, and I saw Alucard with both guns drawn. I nodded to him. Both Alucard and I did control restriction, and I pulled out my double-barreled Helix Magnum and loaded it and opened fire. It was insane, because it blew a lot of demons to hell. Then I set my theme song to Blow Me Away. Then the battle escalated by warping me to worlds that Chaos took, and zombies and demons appeared on the worlds. I yelled in German, Du hast no frickin' Holden, to the zombies and the demons. They rushed me. Fatal mistake. I set my theme song to Blow Me Away. I went Super Saiyan while doing control restriction, which means you're fucked if you catch me in a real bad mood. Which is right now. I brutally killed the zombies and demons using my claws and Tetsume. Then I got slashed across the back by something's claws. When I turned around, corrupted Blade. This time, I really got to kill him for good. It pulled the Slayer of Souls out, and I fought it. While fighting it, it gave me 2 scars, one on my chest and the other on my right cheek. That's when I decided to go all out by going full power, and that's when I became reckless. I destroyed all the worlds they took, which I proved to have mastered the system destruction skill. Corrupted Blade stabbed his claws into my chest and ripped my heart out of my body. Alucard saw it. Before I breathed my last breath, he bit me, and my eyes flashed pure white, and my heart and his hand melted and moved towards me and fused with my body. I stood up, extremely pissed, and I used my Omega Form Control Restriction Level 1 Hell Angel attack and blew Corrupted Blade's upper half into oblivion. And I yelled, On your knees! I want you to beg for forgiveness! In a unified voice. Then I heard, Chaos Blast! I said, Shed? When I turned around, Spin was standing behind me. I said, Spin, thanks for the backup. I was getting my ass kicked. And now that you're here, you can also have some fun. Spin nodded and went super, and I broke my power restraints that held me in sanity. When I did that, I thought, screw the restraints. This is the perfect place to show Chaos what I'm really made of. I set my theme song to Assault, and I yelled, This is it, you motherfuckers! I'm not in the goddamn fucking mood to confront you with a committee of accountability, so I'll kill you all now! And I fully powered up, and when Spin saw it, he was scared that the last time he saw me I was very weak. But now I'm the strongest known wolf in the entire universe.
The ultimate creature.
While I was fighting my corrupted self, a huge fist came out of nowhere and smashed a couple of demons. When I turned to see who it was, Chaos Blade stabbed me with his claws, and I retaliated, delivering a swift, painful kick to the face of him. And then blood went flying. And what that fist belonged to was no other than a huge fucking shark. I saw how big his teeth were. My only guess was, it was a mutant.
Then it spoke.
So, this is where you've been all this time, killing such weaklings.
I screamed, "Weaklings! I have a fucking grudge against these ugly motherfuckers, and I won't stop until the Eye of Terror is destroyed." It responded,
I want you to finish this fight with the demons and come to my island. I want to speak with you.
And it walked off. I finally got very sick and tired of chaos, and my corrupted self. So I did the full synchro control restriction level 1 angel arm, just to kill chaos. It did a nice job of doing so, but it did not destroy chaos completely. So Alucard, Spin, and myself combined our powers together, and finally sealed the Eye of Terror. For now. Then I found the shark creature, and I said, "Well, I'm here." It looked at me and said,
"Show me your strength."
And I went full synchro and charged. It sidestepped and punched me square in the face. I completely underestimated it, and it picked me up by my neck and slammed me into a tree. It said, "Pathetic," and used a shoulder cannon on my chest. That's why I decided to go full power. I broke my mental restraints and went to my final form. I looked at it with pure silver eyes and said, "Big mistake." I pulled Tetsume out and set my theme song to blow me away and used the wind scar. It dodged it and charged me. I dodged it, but somehow it was faster than I thought, and it nailed me in the back and managed to restrain me. Then it said,
"Is that your full power? You are pathetic."
I said, "That was only a small bit of my power. Wait until you see the power of the sacred sides." It laughed, and I engaged my armor and pulled my keyblade out and said, "May hell break loose, and death to those who oppose me." And I powered up the ancient god of destruction, and when I reached my full power, the island was shaking apart from my power, and I channeled my energy into a strong enough blast to kill it and destroy half the galaxy. It saw I was trying to destroy the world. It said,
"Enough. You are worthy of a warrior."
I powered down to my regular self and collapsed due to the fatigue of using so much energy to go full power. It picked me up and slung me over its shoulder and picked up my sword, and that's when I passed out.
Crydon.
When I came around, I was in a bed with bandages around my chest and in a strange-looking house. I thought, where am I, and how did I get here? When it came in, it said,
"Good, you're awake. I got some food for you. By the way, how are you feeling?"
I responded, "Like shit." "Why did you have me do that?"
"Do what?"
"Blast me with that cannon on your shoulder. And how the fuck are you faster than me?"
"I was made that way."
I thought it must be an experiment like I was. I asked, "Are you an experiment?"
"Yeah, I was until I broke free. Why do you ask?"
It was hard to say the truth about me. Because I'm one as well. The humans made me into a weapon for war, without a heart. It said,
"Wow, no wonder you have a grudge against science."
I responded harshly, "I do not. I just hate being in the laboratory." It said,
"I guess you are the psychopath I heard about."
"Yeah, I am. So what's your point?"
"I have no point. By the way, what's your name?"
"The name's Blade. Blade Dragonfang." Right when I said that, it backed up a few feet and looked at me and said,
"You're Blade Dragonfang? I don't believe it's impossible. I thought you were just a myth."
I just said, "Yeah, and the proof is I'm standing right in front of you. So do you require more proof?" It said,
"No, I don't. But I have a question for you."
I said, "Go ahead." It asked,
"What are the sacred sides?"
I sighed and said, "The sacred sides are Saiyan, Wolf, Demon, Horkata, and Dragon. With all the sides united, you're almost invincible. I found a way to become invincible by using the Super Ice Emeralds and Full Synchro, which means you are a force to be reckoned with." Then I said, I still don't have your name yet, so what is it? It said, Crydon. I said, nice to meet you, but I have a question. It said, what's your question? I said, your scent. It smells like the sea, and a human. It said, I'm half megalodon, half human. I thought it must be a hybrid. Then I asked, when I hit you with a kick, how come I felt like I was hitting metal? It responded, most of my body is cybernetic, except my brain, spinal cord, and my balls. I laughed out because I find it funny, and out of fear. Then I said, so you're a male like me, right? He said, yeah, I'm a male with a badass body. I agreed with him, because I also have a badass body.
Revenge against the scientists and chaos.
He showed me all of his weapons, which were huge, even though he's at least 12 feet high. Then he showed me his armor, which was made of coconut and metal. I asked, what's with the Madu fruit and metal combined? How much protection will that give you when an armor-piercing round would go right through it like it is butter? He said,
my skin is tougher than a tank, so they won't be able to kill me that easily.
I told him that I needed more ammo and weapons before we could even walk to the Pentagon to even make our point to live in peace without getting shot at by the military and struck with artillery. He told me,
you don't have to worry. I've walked to the Pentagon with guns firing at me, and I even threw a tank into 5 others.
I whistled in a surprised tone. Then I said, but before we can do that, I want you to meet some of my friends. Later that night, I called Zero, Sora, Seasonbringer, and a loot card to meet me on the island, and when they came, I walked out of the shadows of a full moon with Crydon walking behind me. One look at him, and they all drew their weapons ready to fight, when I told them to calm down. They looked at me like I went insane. When I told them of the plan, they somewhat agreed, but I told them, I want to show the government that I am a living creature as well, not a weapon, and I want to tell them I have a heart, and I care about my friends, family, and my destiny. When the plan was made, Crydon and I positioned ourselves at least 30 miles from the Pentagon and gave the president a note that said, casualties are unavoidable, for hell will follow us as we come to stand. Signed, Devil Will Cry. The president already knew who that name belonged to. Zero had already tapped all the radio frequencies, and we all heard the president say,
block the Pentagon from the terrorists.
Sora reported us that all roads to the White House and the Pentagon are blocked off. I said, well then, shall we make our stand? Crydon nodded, and we began to walk, fully armed for a slaughter. It was unbelievable that the Angel of Death was walking to us, just to kill and destroy everything to make us near invincible. Then I got a call saying, it's Blade, he's with the Queria, and he looks pissed. I shifted nervously in my chair as the seconds ticked by, and he was getting closer to me.
Wait, was that supposed to be the president? Ah, God.
The streets were empty, and there were barricades and tanks set up to kill me, but that didn't stop me. I set my theme song to Blow Me Away, and I pulled Tetsume out, and Crydon pulled 2 swords, and asked me to make it rain. I did. Then he used some sonic blast that disintegrated the blockade. That scared me, because he could use the same attack against me if he wanted to. I pulled out my caster shotgun, loaded it, and pointed it at the tanks, and blew the trigger. It vaporized the tanks, and continued walking towards the Pentagon. No matter how many barricades, tanks, and soldiers there were, we continued to mow them down as we advanced. When we got to the front gate of the Pentagon, we blew down the front gate, and I had Tetsume drawn and ready for using the Hell Wind Scar to destroy the Pentagon if it comes to that point.
Organization 13.
We walked up to the front doors and blew the doors in,
But right when we entered, there were some people in black robes. I heard Sora say in a harsh tone, "Organization 13? Why the fuck are they here?" I said, "So that's the organization you told me about. They look pathetic. So this will be a warm-up for me before I get ready to beat the shit out of the president." I started to rush them, then one pulled a keyblade out. That surprised me, but I used Tetsume and its full power to break the opponent's keyblade in half, and put the tip of my blade against its throat, and said, "That was pathetic. Now stand up and remove your hood so I can see your face." It did so, and when I saw its face, I said, "Roxas, what the fuck are you doing with the organization? They are just an obstacle in my way, so please step aside." He did, and I said, "Thank you." Then I turned to the organization, sent my theme song to blow me away, and said, "I'm going to make your lives a living hell!" And then I went Super Saiyan Stage 2 and started walking towards them, with the look of a massacre in my eyes. Then I used Tetsume when it came on. I clearly went insane, due to the fact that I was enjoying every drop of blood spilling on the floor. Krydon was about to help me when I told him, "This is my fight, and my fight only." He respected that, because he knew I held a grudge for something he didn't know about me. Roxas looked very unsure that he should help Blade kill the organization, or to stop him. I heard him say, "Blade's right, I should help him, for being complete assholes to me." I stood shocked, because of what I just heard. Then Roxas ran in with both keyblades out, and when I turned to see who was entering the fight, it was Roxas. I could tell he held some grudge. I said, "Welcome to the party," and changed my theme song to Heart of the Sword. I put Tetsume away and pulled my keyblades out, and when Roxas saw my keyblades, he got surprised. I nodded to him, and he nodded back, and we both charged, mowing every single member of that goddamn organization to hell. It was a massacre.
Chaos Blade returns, and the truth about the experiment.
After Roxas and I murdered Organization 13, Roxas and I charged through the halls and corridors of the Pentagon. While doing that, I felt the cold, dark feeling of chaos. Roxas saw my expression go to concern. Then he asked, "What's wrong?" I responded, terrified. "Them, they're here, waiting for me, waiting to kill me and take my soul." He asked, "Them? Who are they?" I could only mutter, "Chaos." "What?" "Chaos! The demons of the warp! They willingly corrupt those who desire power!" It was hard to say. I was one of their greatest slaves, until I broke free and made an oath to destroy Chaos for good. He looked at me like I said something scary. I told him the truth. As we closed in on the door at the end of the hallway, the feeling became stronger, and my demon side wanted to taste fresh blood. We stopped, and I was right. Chaos was here. But on the other side of the door, Zero, Sora, Krydon, Seasonbringer, and Alucard finally found Roxas and I. And Sora said,
"So this is the place Chaos finally appeared. It was stupid for it to come here."
I said, "Roxas, stay with the others. I'm going alone because it's me it wants." Before I could walk away, Roxas stepped right in front of me and said, "I want to come too and see this Chaos." Before I could say no, the others joined him, and I said finally, "All right, you can come, but let me walk in first." I, of course, kicked the door down, and the place was covered in demons, and right in front of the horde was no other than the president himself. I said, "Why would you allow Chaos to appear in this world?" He just laughed and said,
"I did it just so I can continue the research on your fighting capabilities, and I see you hold a grudge against it."
I said quietly, "Shut up!" Then he said,
"Face it, you can't escape."
Then I screamed, "Shut the fuck up!" And I charged him. But before I could even slash him with the keyblade, something hit me straight out of the air. When I saw who it was, my hatred for Chaos peaked. Chaos Blade. I stood up, and I heard a heart beating then. A lot of energy welled up, and before I knew it, my body began to glow. I could not believe what I was seeing. Blade was somehow tapping into the drive mode. Then it happened. He released the energy, and his clothes changed color to pure white, and he was hovering, looking surprised, and his keyblades were hovering around him, and he looked at Chaos Blade with a murderous smile. I felt more powerful while I was in this form, or stage. I heard Sora yell to me, "Go! Kill it before that form expires!" I nodded and rushed it. When I used the Keyblades, it damaged Chaos Blade badly. I set my theme song to Blow Me Away, and said, "May hell welcome you," and tried to use the Wind Scar, and I found out I could use it while in this form. I decided to push my luck and go full power, and when I did that, my form changed. My clothes were pure silver, and my hair was white silver blue color, and my eyes are pure silver, and my Keyblades changed to the Ultimate Weapon and Ultimate Weapon Plus. Which means you're extremely fucked when you see me in this form. And in the bad mood I'm in right now, I set my theme song to Du Hast and said, "There will be no mercy," and charged. It could not keep up with me because of my speed and strength, and because I'm wielding the 2 strongest Keyblades in the world, and I'm in a new form. No matter how strong it tried to keep up with me, it couldn't, because my power level kept escalating, and I used the double Wind Scar, and it blasted the Wind Scar away, and his blast was coming at me. And since his demonic aura is stronger, I used the Backlash Wave and sent his attack right back at him. The Backlash Wave tore its body apart, and I used a new move that I just learned, Hell's Warm Welcome. It is when I swing both Keyblades straight down on my opponent, breaking their neck, then doing a full fury of lethal blows to the chest, arms, and head. Then the finishing blow is full of destructive energy that shoots up, engulfing them. Then the energy becomes the fire from hell, thus incinerating the opponent while I continue to beat the shit out of him. It destroyed him, and I looked at the rest of Chaos and said, "Who's next?" Chaos looked at each other and rushed me. In the blink of an eye, I was standing with my Keyblades in the after-running slash, and they turned and rushed me again, and their horde began to collapse. I set my theme song to Blow Me Away, and then the president sent the army at me, and I just smirked and slashed the army to pieces. After the soldiers collapsed, I rushed and used Hell's Warm Welcome on the president, thus killing him.
The Aftermath and the New Form's Name.
After I killed the corrupted president, I walked out of the Pentagon in my new form, Keyblades still drawn. Roxas, Zero, Sora, Krydon, and Alucard were walking right behind me. All the news crews were standing outside waiting to see who killed who, and when I walked up, they all gasped and began to ask questions to me. I told them, "Shut up!" They didn't listen. So I screamed, "Shut the fuck up! I'm not in the fucking mood to answer your goddamn fucking questions!" They backed up a few feet. Then they tried to do it again. That's when I used the Wind Scar, and it cleared a path for me. Sora and Roxas kept telling the reporters to leave me alone, and they didn't listen. Sora told me this, and I just stood up from where I sat down and slashed the video cameras and the microphones. And I killed a couple of them, just to show them this is not the perfect time to piss me off farther. And it worked. 3 months later, I was in the Farplane training when Roxas and Sora appeared and said, "You were incredible in that fight!" I responded, "Yay, but now I have a new form to master." Sora then said, "I made a new name for that form." I said, "Okay, what's its name?" "Insane Form. How do you like it?" I responded, "Nah, too lame. How about Chaos Hunter Form?"
That's a good name for it. Roxas, how do you like that name for the new form?
Sora asked. Roxas responded, "I like it." Then Sora said,
It's decided.
The new form's name is Chaos Hunter form.
The end.
No, seriously, it just stops. So, that's probably as much of the story as I'm ever gonna get, but, that's more than enough anyway. If anyone was insane enough to listen to all this, I'd like to thank you and apologize.